exchanged my bladder. I don't know. I doubt it. But the point is, I got a pretty good return. It was amazing because when I was told that I was going to be dead by Christmas, I thought, oh dear. And I said, death looks after itself. And what I'm going to do now is just focus on living, which I'd never done before in my life, ever.
Thank you for listening to The Interview. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can find many more episodes of The Interview wherever you get your BBC podcasts, including ones with the former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, and Dame Sarah Mullally, the first woman to be the Archbishop of Canterbury. Until the next time, bye for now.
From the BBC, that was The Interview. I'm Saroja Coelho.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio, and we are live in our downtown CBC studios on 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on that app and on YouTube. Everyone's talking about how cold it is right now. It will break by the end of the week, but right now, again, another brisk start, colder than yesterday, minus 18 in Winnipeg. The sky is mainly clear. Over in Brandon, cloudy, minus 14. Up in Thompson right now, it is cloudy and minus 21. Your cold spot in the province is Churchill, way up north at minus 33. 3 minutes to 6 o'clock. Morning show's on until 8:37 today. And in Winnipeg today, we are expecting some snow. About 5 centimeters is going to fall. Also, Brandon, about 5 to 10 centimeters of snow is expected for you. And in Thompson, there's a couple of centimeters in the forecast as well. Let's say good morning to the team that's here. Mr. Darren Marash. Hello. Darren is our YouTube producer, so watch us there. Good morning, Mr. Abby Adiyemi, all dressed in bright yellow to cheer us up behind the controls. Abby will be covering the weather. And Corey Funk is here also, and Corey is our show director and covers your commute. Heather Wells is going to start us off with the latest news from Manitoba. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Well, a Winnipeg man worries about the province's decision to back away from a timeline for opening its supervised consumption site. Chuck Neufeld lost his son Sean to an overdose in 2021. He says that facility is key to preventing other deaths. And a pro golfer with a Winnipeg connection is making a name for himself this past weekend, ending the Players in Florida, tied for 5th place. He's just 24 years old and learned some skills with his dad at the Golf Dome here in Winnipeg. So we'll hear more about his story in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
That's a crazy story. All right, thanks,
really
Heather. I appreciate it. Heather's with us throughout the morning, of course, and news anytime online at cbc.ca/Manitoba. Well, in the program today, the Winnipeg Police Chief is going to be sitting here with us for a feature interview after 8 o'clock. Gene Bowers has been in his new job for exactly 1 year today. He'll be in studio to talk about the work of police transparency and rebuilding public trust. He recently laid out 10 key pillars with the police board, so we'll talk with him about what those are. Also, that story on rent discount, it sounds like a win when you say rent discount, but some tenant advocates say there's a back door, they say, for hefty increases down the road. So we'll hear about that.
Today on Q.
These days, it can feel like cynicism is the only rational response to the world around you. But Eddie Vedder disagrees. He has some advice for you, especially if you're trying to figure out what to do when you read the news. The frontman of Pearl Jam will talk to you about hope and why giving in isn't an option.
I feel like I've always had a bit of rebellion in me.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland. And on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Martina Fitzgerald. The IDF has been targeting Iran's security chief in early morning airstrikes. Israel's defense minister says Ali Larijani has been killed. Israel is still conducting military operations in Iran and Lebanon. And Iran is not easing up on counterattacks in the region on Israeli and U.S. targets. The CBC's Crystal Gumansing has the latest from Jerusalem.
Explosions echoed through the darkness in the suburbs of Beirut, followed by a new set of evacuation orders from Israeli forces. People have been told to leave the village of Al Jal, identified as the next location in the south for Israeli military operations. More than 880 people in Lebanon have been killed since the offensive began, with over 1 million having been driven from their homes, according to Lebanese authorities.
We're at a historical juncture.
In an interview with the newswire service AFP, President Isaac Herzog defended his state's attacks on Iran's proxy.
Europe should support any effort to eradicate Hezbollah. Now, they should understand that if you want to get anywhere, sometimes you need to win war.
The war launched by Israel and the U.S. on the Iranian regime at the end of February has expanded, affecting lives right across the Middle East. A total but temporary airspace shutdown was ordered by officials in the UAE, a necessary measure as the Ministry of Defense worked to eliminate threats from drones and missiles launched from Iran. In the Iraqi capital, drones were shot down as they approached the U.S. Embassy. One is said to have evaded interception attempts, hitting the inside of the heavily protected compound in Baghdad. The Speaker of Iran's parliament says U.S. military presence does not make the region safer, and it needs to leave. In an address carried on state TV, Mohammed Bakr Kalibaf said the Middle East will change, but not according to U.S. plans. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, Jerusalem.
The European Union's foreign policy chief hopes a diplomatic solution can be reached in the Strait of Hormuz. But for now, Kaja Kallas says the EU does not want to send warships there to escort oil tankers.
Nobody is ready to put their people in harm's way in the Strait of Hormuz. But like I said, we have to find, diplomatic ways to keep this open so that we don't have a, food crisis, fertilizers crisis, energy crisis in the world.
She says European navies could get involved once hostilities in the strait have stopped. Kallas also told a reporter this morning the EU may be an ally of the United States, but it does not understand Washington's recent moves. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer says support for Ukraine cannot fall to the wayside as energy and attention turns to the conflict with Iran.
It's vital that we continue to focus on supporting Ukraine. We cannot allow the war in the Gulf to turn into a windfall for Putin.
Today, Starmer is hosting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in London. This is also deadline day for Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich to pay $4.5 billion to victims of the Ukraine war. The money is supposed to come from his sale of the Chelsea FC soccer team. If he does not pay up, the British government will take him to court. Afghanistan is accusing Pakistan of targeting civilians. It says more than 400 people have been killed in an airstrike on a drug rehab center in Kabul. But as Pakistan ramps up its attacks, it says it's only targeting military facilities. Our South Asia correspondent, Salima Shivji, has more.
Rescue workers rushed to gather the wounded in the ash and mangled debris of what was once a drug rehab hospital in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul, now in ruins. A bomb dropped just after prayers at 9 last night, Iqbal says, from his hospital bed, his head wrapped in a bandage. The wall and the ceiling fell on top of us, he says. Somehow I pulled myself out of there. The injured were being brought to us from all directions, says Kabul paramedic Syed Marab Shah. Afghan officials are accusing Pakistan of targeting the hospital. Islamabad denies that. It's a dramatic escalation in the conflict that's been raging for more than 2 weeks after Pakistan declared open war on its neighbor. Civilian deaths and clashes on the shared border had already been climbing steadily before this strike, says Farzana Sheikh with Chatham House's Asia Pacific program.
There has been a very sharp spike in militant violence in Pakistan since the Afghan Taliban came to power. And Pakistan has blamed this violence on the Afghan Taliban.
International calls for a ceasefire have so far been ignored by both sides, but Chinese officials are again trying today, calling for restraint. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Mumbai.
Parts of British Columbia are being hammered by an atmospheric river. That doesn't typically happen at this time of year, but the system is producing very heavy rainfall on the coast and significant snowfall in the mountains. As Georgie Smythe reports, the downpour comes with increased risk of flooding, avalanches, and landslides.
It's wet. Heavy rainfall and snow delivered by a strong Pacific low pressure system is hitting Vancouver Island, the Central Coast and Vancouver's Coast Mountains.
So it's been a very wet pattern.
Brian Proctor is with Environment Canada. He says temperatures are also on the rise.
And they've risen steadily through the day as the warm air associated with this atmospheric river really has sort of flooded across the south coast.
That means rain at higher elevations too.
We're warming up those layers up there at the higher elevations, and it's really problematic moving forward.
It's why Avalanche Canada is also forecasting increasing avalanche activity in the next few days. Colin Garrity is one of their forecasters. He says the storm is hitting an already dangerously unstable snowpack.
As that gets saturated with rainwater, what we expect is a wet, loose avalanche problem.
All that rain and snowmelt is flowing down saturated slopes into rivers and streams. A mudslide near Prince Rupert derailed several cars of a train on Monday. No one was hurt. People are being reminded to stay away from unstable or flooded areas until levels subside. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
British Columbia isn't the only place being walloped by powerful weather. Thousands of flights are cancelled or delayed in the United States as a heavy storm batters the East Coast. The partial U.S. government shutdown is also straining airport security staff. Stephanie Schlepp has been stranded at Chicago's O'Hare Airport since yesterday.
Well, I actually came from Des Moines, Iowa first, and we had weather-related issues, but someone else had said there were like 500 TSA agents that walked out. So, yeah, it's just a nightmare, the whole thing is.
Along the U.S. East Coast, many schools are closed because of high winds and possible tornadoes. The U.S. National Weather Service says the fast-moving storm is expected to move out of the region later today. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has fined another Loblaw store $10,000 for promoting imported food as Canadian. Fortino's in Toronto was selling a French cheese spread, but the tag on the shelf displayed a maple leaf. The CFIA says that's misleading to shoppers still taking part in the Buy Canadian movement. CBC News has learned the agency is also investigating labeling and advertising practices at Sobeys head office. The mayor of Waterloo, Ontario, is demanding answers from police after a sniper was deployed to a St. Patrick's Day street party. As Ashta Shetty reports, police say the tactical officer was part of safety operations.
Someone randomly was looking up at the sky and they were like, yo, that's a sniper.
Students taking part in an unsanctioned street party for St. Patrick's Day over the weekend were surprised to see an officer on the top floor balcony of a building with his face covered, dressed in all black, standing next to a large weapon. Annalise Meerton, an Australian international exchange student at the University of Waterloo, says the experience was startling.
There's no words for it in that moment of how shocked I was. And then all my friends started going, oh, I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. And then it was more so, let's go. It was terrifying.
Melissa Quarry, a spokesperson for the Waterloo Regional Police Service, says the sniper is one of their tactical officers and was there as part of their safety plan for large gatherings.
Protocol for all major events. Unfortunately, with the magnitude of unfortunate mass casualty events that have occurred throughout North America and around the world, that really shapes our emergency response strategies for all types of large gatherings.
Waterloo Mayor Dorothy McCabe says she was, quote, shocked to hear there was a sniper deployed to manage the street party. She says she's looking for more information from Chief Mark Crowell to understand more about their protocols. Ashta Shetty, CBC News, Waterloo.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. For news anytime, go to cbcnews.ca. I'm Martina Fitzgerald. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to your Tuesday morning, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. And I'm Marcy Marcusa. It is very cold in Winnipeg this morning, and we are expecting some snow. You're listening to CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. This hour on the program, European allies say no thank you to U.S. President Donald Trump as he continues to pressure them to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz and help him with that. So we'll talk about Canada's stance on this and where that is at today as we elaborate on what you may have just heard on World Report. Also this hour on the program, coming up at 10 to 7, we're going to get some information about what is happening with Sarah Ritchie, a politics reporter for the Canadian Press. She has her eye on what's happening in Ottawa. So it's Tuesday, Ottawa Report. She's filling in today. And we're going to begin by hearing about a new golf star in Canada who started at the Golf Dome in Winnipeg. Here's Heather Wells with our headlines.
Good morning. Well, Manitoba's move to expand tenant protections is being met with caution by some advocates who say the province is missing an important loophole. Last week, the government proposed new rules to bolster rent control, but left out tenant discounts. Landlords in Manitoba can offer a reduction on the rent price, but they can also change or remove it when leases are renewed, leaving tenants with an increase. The Manitoba League of Persons with Disabilities wants to make it easier to get around rural Manitoba. The group has a program providing small, portable wheelchair ramps at no charge for businesses, venues, and other places in rural and northern communities. The president of the group says it is modeled after a similar successful program in Winnipeg. We'll hear about it in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
Why is it so cold?
Oh, my goodness. But here, okay?
Yeah.
This apparently is the last day.
You think?
Snow for St. Patrick's Day, right?
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Well, you know what? Something's got to put you inside to raise a mug of beer with your friends. Let's go to the forecast. Abby Adeyemi, what do we know about today?
Yeah, we're tracking an active system coming our way, more like an Alberta clipper actually moving through the province. It's going to be bringing snow and local blowing snow to the southern part of the province, while the north still remains gripped in that freezing temperature with extreme wind chills. We're still feeling it pretty cold in the northern part of the province. Looking at Winnipeg right now, we're seeing temperatures hover around minus 19, minus 18, depending on where you are in the city. It's clear outside. We're expecting some clouds to roll in. We will see our highs maybe around minus 9, minus 10 for today, though. That snow and local blowing snow will begin to sweep in sometime this morning. We're expecting about 2 to 5 centimeters of snow to come through the city. So it means driving might be difficult for some people during your late morning and into the midday period of the day. So be prepared for that. Now, across the south, we're seeing temperatures around minus 15s, minus 16s. If you look at it at this time, Brandon currently tracking around minus 13, that part of the province, though we're tracking frigid conditions around Gillam and Churchill, still sitting between minus 30 and minus 34. The wind chills still feel close to minus 47, so it's pretty cold there. And for the southern regions, we will see the snow taper off, but the risk of freezing drizzle is definitely gonna settle in. But I guess this is more like a way to say goodbye to winter and then prepare for spring as you head to the end of the week. But for Winnipeg, we're still expecting this snow to ramp up shortly. Temperatures just hovering around minus 19 at this time.
I like it. Let's say goodbye. We've got the first day of spring coming up. And honestly, I just saw shots of what's going on in Ontario and Quebec. They got 40 centimeters of snow. They're all shoveling out.
It's more like a closing act for winter,
okay.
You know. So let's just allow it to do its thing.
Abby always words things nicely. Remember, Corey, when he taught us that Thursday's actually Junior Friday?
That's right.
And now we all feel differently on the morning show about
true.
Thursday.
That's true.
So it's the closing act today. Corey Funk, what's going on that commute?
Yeah, right now, pretty quiet out there, though I am saying a bit of a prayer for my colleague Dylan Longhurst, who directs the afternoon show and has to answer the calls in the afternoon, because I'm guessing it's going to be busy then with that snow coming. So heads up there. But right now it is quiet out there on the roads. But if you do see something going on, if you're walking your bike and you're driving, you want to tell me about it, you can give me a call. I can tell you, though, if you the river is starting to see some water on the sides of the river. I noticed this weekend. So be careful. Maybe just avoid the river. Now is this time of year where things shift fast. So stay off the river is my advice. If you do see anything else still going on, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
Well, as I mentioned, a pro golfer with Winnipeg roots is making a name for himself.
Can he get it to double digits within 3? What a great story. Sudarshan Yalamaraju.
Sudarshan Yalamaraju, not the last time we're going to hear that name. He tied for 5th place at the Players' Championship in Florida. The 24-year-old was born in India. He moved with his family here to Winnipeg as a preschooler. It's where he started hitting range balls with his dad over at the Golf Dome. When he was 11, he moved to Toronto, the area of Toronto. The Toronto area, the GTA. He's now a top 10 finisher, though, in a PGA tournament. This is the best result by a PGA Tour rookie in almost 15 years. And did I mention he is self-taught? He learned golf by watching YouTube videos with his father. Derek Ingram is the head coach of Golf Canada's national men's team. He coached Yalamaraju for 3 years. And yesterday, after the excitement from the weekend and that finish, he spoke with Faith Swindell at Up to Speed.
No, how are you guys doing?
We're doing well. Have you been in touch with him since yesterday's result?
Well, I literally just came from the tournament. I got back to Winnipeg about an hour ago, and so I was here all week. And yeah, I currently don't coach him anymore, but I coached him on Team Canada for 3 years, and a wonderful guy.
What was it like watching him climb the leaderboard on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, incredible for a young man from Canada who's worked super hard, and a guy from Winnipeg as well. And you know, he obviously tons of pressure in those last 2 rounds. The third round, not so much, because he barely made the cut and had, I think, the low round of the day, or second low round of the day. But you know, started the final round with lots of pressure and played unreal. So yeah, no, very impressive.
For some golf fans, this will be the first time hearing his name, and hearing about him. What can you tell us about what he's like?
Yeah, he's a Winnipeg Jets fan, loves the Toronto Raptors, and he's a real Canadian. You know, he has a unique path. He didn't go to play college golf like a lot of players do. He turned pro at 19 or 18 and got onto our national team at 20. And to be, you know, on the PGA Tour at 24 is incredible. Had a good, you know, really good season on the Corn Ferry Tour last year, and that's how he got his PGA Tour status. And, you know, he works extremely hard. He's got great habits and, you know, really loves the game.
What's it like coaching him?
Yeah, I mean, him and his dad have done a lot of stuff, you know, really since he was young. And I would say his dad's probably his coach, but certainly I helped him a lot. And I know Louis Melanson from Team Canada as well helped him a lot. And being part of the program and being part of the team and having, you know, friends to compete against and push each other and practice with, you know, a great environment, all those things really helped. And I would say he's got a great energy to him. He loves the game. He's got you know, he's really, you know, happy. And you know, he loves to compete, loves to gamble. And so, I mean, in golf, so you get that right. But yeah, he's just he's a guy who always dreamt about being in the PGA Tour, and he's there maybe a little ahead of schedule.
And I mean, it sounds like he also is quite aware of the resources that's available to him, because he's done a lot of his learning through watching YouTube videos of players like Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy. Well, what do you think that says about him as a person / as a player?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays there's so much access to information online that you can get some really good stuff. You can also get some really bad stuff online.
Yeah.
And you know, they used it really well in the sense that he basically watched and copied, not so much looking at or analyzing the words or really getting into analyzing a ton of technique, but as a young person, he learned by copying and watching, and I think that's a great way to do it, honestly.
And maybe a good start / helps him figure out what's next for him. Do you know what's next for him?
Well, he's going to compete on the PGA Tour this year, and obviously the goals have gone from keeping a PGA Tour card to maybe finishing in the top 70, finishing the top 50, which you get him in all the elevated events, trying to play in more what I call majors. The Players isn't a major, but it's the 5th most important event in the world, I would say. And so trying to qualify for the Masters and maybe the President's Cup. Those might be some of his goals after having this unreal finish and a good start to the PGA Tour year. So I'm sure his goals have changed and improved.
And you know, us Manitobans and especially Winnipeggers, we love cheering for people who are from here. So he'll hopefully they'll be able to hear all those cheers.
Well, all those Manitobans will be really proud to hear that he still considers himself, a Winnipegger, even though he's moved to Ontario when he's 11, and like I said, a Winnipeg Jets fan and a hockey fan. So he does follow the team and have roots in Manitoba.
We'll take it. We'll take the connection. Also, if I could watch a million videos of, Rory McIlroy's swing and never recreate it or make the top 10 in a major event, that's crazy. Derek Ingram, they're talking with Faith Fundell on CBC yesterday, head coach of Golf Canada's men's national team. He just came back to Winnipeg after watching Sudarshan Yalamaraju, who he previously had coached. Yalamaraju was born in India, made his way over to Winnipeg, started at the Golf Dome with his dad. He finished in a tie for 5th place at the Players' Championship in Florida over the weekend.
Local news is in decline across Canada, and this is bad news for all of us. With less local news, noise, rumors, and misinformation fill the void, and it gets harder to separate truth from fiction. That's why CBC News is putting more journalists in more places across Canada, reporting on the ground from where you live, telling the stories that matter to all of us. Because local news is big news. Choose news, not noise. CBC News.
Well, the time right now is 6:21. You're on CBC Manitoba. This morning, we're expecting snow in the province, about 5 centimeters here in Winnipeg, 5 to 10 in Brandon, and then about 2 centimeters up in Thompson. Right now, it's minus 17 as we get St. Patrick's Day started here, Tuesday, March 17th. Well, next on the show, U.S. President Donald Trump is in a bit of a bind on the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has blocked the vital waterway with drones, with missiles, and with mines, as you likely know. It has driven up oil prices and rattled energy markets. Trump's call now to his European allies to send warships to help escort tankers has produced a really big no thank you. The German defense minister summed up the sentiment by saying, quote, "This is not our war," end quote. Trump is now lashing out at allies, saying the U.S. can go it alone. Oral Brown's here to talk about this, political scientist at the University of Toronto. Good morning.
Good morning.
What has Mark Carney said about this, our Prime Minister of Canada?
He has basically followed the same line, even though Mr. Carney initially appeared to have been quite supportive, because the first reaction I read from Mr. Carney was that the United States was justified in some ways because Iran had to be prevented, the regime, from obtaining nuclear weapons. Mr. Carney called the Iranian regime the principal source of instability and terror throughout the Middle East, with one of the worst human rights records in the world. But I think now he's following the European line, and he said that he would like to see disengagement. I'm not sure what the impact will be on Donald Trump, who in some ways is perhaps being taught a lesson in humility. The language that is used by the various European leaders is not accidental. It is not our war. It is exactly the wording that Mr. Trump had used when he told the Europeans that Ukraine is not our war. Europe should pay for it. Europe should be responsible for it. That was both morally wrong and strategically highly mistaken. But the Europeans have been forced to pay all the costs for American weapons, and they have demeaned, and in some ways they were bullied. Look at what happened regarding Greenland. So this reaction coming from the Norwegian Prime Minister, who said exactly the same thing, it's not our war, from the German defense minister, and even the European head of foreign policy, Kaja Kallas, tends to reinforce this type of messaging to the United States that there should be a lesson in humility for Donald Trump.
So what's his reaction been? Because yesterday when I was watching some of what Trump had to say, it seemed to be all over the place.
Well, it certainly wasn't an indication of increased humility, but it was anger, and he went even further to disparage the contributions by the NATO alliance. This is an alliance that is the longest lasting, most effective defense alliance, collective defense in human history. And it has weathered a great many political storms. And now Mr. Trump was saying, well, this is just proof, this was test, that this is a useless alliance. So one may be concerned, I would suggest, about what the long-term impact of this is going to be, because Mr. Trump will not be president forever, but the relationship with the United States will remain an absolutely crucial one. The United States will remain the indispensable partner in the alliance.
What is Trump's plan B, just to look at what's happening in this moment, if NATO countries don't decide to help him in the strait in the end?
With Mr. Trump, we don't know because he changes plans not by the year, month, but by the minute. But we should also understand that this was not purely a military plan because we don't know what's going to happen to the conflict a few weeks down the line. We don't even know if there will be a conclusion of the conflict. For countries to send warships, destroyers to escort tankers, to send minesweepers would take at least a week, probably weeks. And events are moving very quickly on the ground. We just had word this morning that the head of the National Security Council, a crucial position, one of the most powerful people in Iran, was hit, Ali Larijani, and there's a good possibility he's no longer alive. And the same thing with the head of the much-hated militia Basij and his deputy. And Iran does not hold all the cards. They are also very vulnerable. The Americans have already hit Karg Island, and 90% of energy is shipped by Iran to Karg Island. So there's a greater vulnerability. But Iran is trying to divide the world, particularly the Western world, to extract a kind of ransom. If you pay up politically, economically, we're going to allow you ships, the way we're allowing some Indian ships to go through, or the way we are allowing Chinese ships, the regime is saying. So at one level, one could look on this as a manifestation of political unity had Mr. Trump been successful, but he had wasted so much of the goodwill, so much of America's soft power, that at one level, it is understandable to get this kind of reaction. But we should also recognize what the foreign policy chief of the European Union said. She repeated the standard line, this is not Europe's war. But then she added, Europe's interests are directly at stake. That last part is not insignificant.
Oral Brown, thank you for your analysis today. We appreciate your time on CBC.
Thank you for having me.
Oral Brown is a political science professor at the University of Toronto. For the latest on the Middle East war, cbc.ca is where you can go.
The PWHL is back for the third season of heart-stopping women's hockey. And this season, there are two new teams looking to make their mark on the ice. The Seattle Torrent and Vancouver Golden Eyes. When the world's best women's hockey players face off, anything can happen. Will the Minnesota Frost achieve a three-peat? Will a new team take home the trophy? There's only one way to find out. Watch the PWHL for free on CBC Gem.
Well, surprise, in the next hour of the show, we have a contest we're going to launch. The Professional Women's Hockey League is coming to Winnipeg on Sunday. The game is sold out. I know a lot of people that are going because they're so excited, and they got their tickets early. So if you wanted to be one of those people and you didn't get a ticket, we're going to give you a shot. So we, in the next hour, are going to launch our contest to give you a chance to win tickets to the PWHL game coming up on Sunday. You have to be listening in the next hour of the show to find out how you can win. It is an interactive contest, so you're going to have a phone. And most people have phones. You're going to be wanting to pick up that phone and call to enter, and we'll tell you how you can enter in the next hour of the show. So about 7:40 is when I'm going to announce all the details specifically. Right now, the time is coming up to 6:30. If you see anything in traffic out there that's causing an issue, please let us know. We'll pass it along. You can call our commuter line at 788-3093. Your regional forecast, bit of snow across Manitoba today. We'll have those details after the news. We also, after the news, are going to dig into the business report, business news with Crystalie Ramlakan. The Bank of Canada is set to make its next interest rate announcement tomorrow, so we'll get some analysis of that. Also, we'll find out what Canada is doing to address the rising number of crypto scams that are changing the landscape of this country. And we have some new insight into how artificial intelligence is using Canadian journalism. There's a new study out that says that AI systems depend on Canadian journalism. So we're going to find out exactly what the connection is after your CBC News from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is -17. And we're going to have some snow for St. Patrick's Day, about 5 centimeters, and it will be blowing as that south wind picks up, 40 gusting to 60. It all gets going later this morning. Today's high is -9, and then we start to warm up overnight. A Manitoba tenant worries his rent discount could turn into a hefty bill increase this summer. Brent Krynick lives in a 2-bedroom apartment in North Kildonan. The unit is rent-controlled. His landlord can only up his monthly fee by 1.8% this year without an exemption. But Krynick says his rent jumped more than expected last year after his landlord reduced his monthly discount by $72.
Are they going to draw from the discount to make it 10, 15%? I really don't know. And it's hard for me to prepare for other things in life knowing that this potential large looming expense is going to be lingering over my head.
Manitoba landlords can offer discounts, and it is up to them if they want to change them. Some tenant advocates want to see that practice end, saying it can lead to unexpected rent increases over time. A Winnipeg man worries about the province's decision to back away from a timeline for opening its supervised consumption site. Chuck Neufeld lost his son, Sean, to an overdose in 2021. He says the facility is key to preventing other deaths. Earlier this month, Premier Wab Kinew said a temporary supervised consumption site could open within a week or two. Now he says it could be weeks or months. Neufeld says while he's okay with waiting for all the services and staffing to be in place, he wants to see a plan.
I think they should say, hey, okay, we'll have this open in 3 months. So maybe in 2 months' time, if they'll go, oh, you know what, we need another month. And that may happen too, but at least they have a target to shoot towards.
Kinew says other than opening a site quickly, he wants to make sure everything is done right. Well, drones and rockets were launched today at the U.S. Embassy in Iraq as Iran and its proxies retaliate. U.S. President Donald Trump is trying to bring more allies into the war against Iran, but most countries are saying no. Andrew Leslie is a former commander of the Canadian Army.
I would strongly recommend that we stay as far away from that as is possible, mainly because let's just look at the track record of what the President of the United States has said. The belittling comments, the 51st state, the illogical tariff war. He did not consult with the government of Canada ahead of time vis-a-vis intentions with Iran. And do we trust him to have our sailors' backs? Should we deploy our warships there and they get into trouble?
On Monday, Canada's defense minister said Ottawa is considering whether to help out Gulf countries if they ask for support. Well, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer says support for Ukraine cannot fall to the wayside as the world's attention turns to the war in Iran.
It's vital that we continue to focus on supporting Ukraine. We cannot allow the war in the Gulf to turn into a windfall for Putin.
Today, Starmer hosts Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in London. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. The Manitoba League for Persons with Disabilities wants to make it easier to get around rural Manitoba. The group has a program providing small portable wheelchair ramps at no charge for businesses, venues, and other places in rural or northern communities. President Alan Mankiewicz says it's modeled after a similar successful program in Winnipeg.
They see some of the same things that we see here in Winnipeg. There's barriers to accessibility in terms of buildings not being accessible, infrastructure not being accessible in terms of sidewalk snow clearing, things like that.
Anyone interested in a free wheelchair ramp can apply on the Manitoba League for Persons with Disabilities website. A Winnipegger working to make hockey more accessible welcomes a new Inclusion in Sport bill. The NDP says promoting inclusion in Amateur Sport Act will help identify barriers to play in some communities. Alan Chan is a director with the nonprofit Our Game Hockey. The group has worked with the Winnipeg Jets and Winnipeg School Division to help get young newcomers and underrepresented groups on the ice.
Coming from a background as being an inner city kid and not really ever having these opportunities, and now seeing the government setting this in motion just gives me hope. And when I was growing up, I just never thought this was something that was on the radar within the government.
Chan hopes the province connects with sports organizations already collecting some of the demographic data the sports minister wants to track. Well, a pro golfer who took up the sport in Winnipeg has fans talking on the PGA Tour. This past weekend, Sudarshan Yellamuraju tied for fifth at the prestigious Players Tournament in Florida. The 24-year-old was born in India and moved with his family to Winnipeg as a preschooler. It's where he started hitting balls with his dad at the Golf Dome. When he was 11, he moved to the Toronto area. Derek Ingram is the head coach of Golf Canada's men's national team, and he has worked with Yellamuraju and was at the Players.
He has a unique path. He didn't go to play college golf like a lot of players do. He turned pro at 19 or 18 and got onto our national team at 20. And to be, on the PGA Tour at 24 is incredible.
Yellamuraju's finish on Sunday was the best by a PGA Tour rookie in almost 15 years. You can find more news at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Abby, I got to say, these gray days, continuing. We got snow coming today, so we're not going to get the beautiful sunshine, but you are brightening things up, man.
Yes, Mercy. I was just like, you know what? It's going to look great today, but I might just bring some reflectors out.
Me and
And
Corey,
I just pulled out the highlighters this morning.
Look at this guy. If you're watching on our YouTube stream, I love it. You got a hoodie. Who has a hoodie with a matching? His jacket over top looks like a lumberjacket, like with the check, the buffalo check, but it literally is the color of a yellow highlighter.
And you could just cross any street in Winnipeg, and traffic will just stop for him.
Yeah.
And Marcy, this wasn't planned. Wait for it. Wait for it.
Get out of here. Now he's holding his water, his Yeti, and it matches everything.
I did not plan it.
You are so bright. I'm
Promise.
loving it. See, you know what? Next time we do interviews about how to keep pedestrians safe, that right there, that's no one's hitting you.
Yeah, they will see you from far away for sure.
It looks nice on you, though. It really does.
And the grays actually on it actually are like reflectors. The light would bounce on it.
Is that true?
From far away. Yeah.
It's reflective, your jacket, too?
Yep. So you will see me from far away.
Loving it. Loving it. All right. So today we mentioned the sky will be gray.
Yes.
Not reflective gray, but gray with snow coming.
Yeah, we have an active system we're looking out for that's going to be moving through the province today. It's going to be bringing snow and local blowing snow to most of the regions in the southern part of the province. While the far north, we're still seeing those extreme wind chills in the valleys close to minus 47s this morning. For Winnipeg and areas in the Red River Valley region, we're seeing temperatures between minus 16s to minus 21s at this time, depending on where you are. We're tracking minus 19 around the Winnipeg area. Clear conditions, but we should expect the clouds to roll in later in the day. We warm up to about minus 9, and then along with that, we're going to be seeing those snow sweep in sometime this morning. Probably during your rush hour, you'd start noticing the snowfall in the city. Total accumulation, we're looking at 2 to 5 centimeters, and this will be driven by gusty south winds. That's going to make it feel close to minus 31. That's where the wind chill factored in. Now we travel towards Morden, Winkler, Morris, all the way towards Headingley and Portugal Perry. We're looking at minus 18s and minus 19s also in that part of the province. Snow starting sometime this morning. You get to a high of minus 8. In the Westman region, Brandon and nearby areas, we're sitting at minus 14s, minus 15s at this time. Some areas tracking minus 13. We might see up to 10 centimeters of snow in some areas, but the tracker says expect 5 to 10 centimeters of snow in that region. Highs will be around minus 3. Now from Dauphin all the way towards Roblin, minus 13. Also cloudy conditions. You warm up to minus 5. There we're tracking a freezing rain in that part of the province later in the afternoon. Now in Gimli and nearby areas, we're tracking temperatures like in the minus 20s at this time in some areas in that area. Trying to refresh the system to see if it's still in that region. We're looking at between minus 20 and minus 23 for the Interlake region this morning. You will see snow also come your way. You warm up to about minus 10 later. Now crossing over to the northern part of the province. Let's start from the part of Flin Flin. We're looking at minus 15. Light snow falling there now. You warm up to minus 9. Thompson, nearby regions, minus 21 with periods of snow. Highs will be around minus 10, while Lynn Lake is around minus 16 with light snow also. You warm up to minus 12. In Gillam, it's clear there, minus 30 at this time. Highs highs would get to minus 18, though the wind chill factored in, it feels like minus 42. There's a risk of frostbite in minutes. To Doodle Lake, we're seeing minus 28 there, and up in Churchill, we're tracking minus 33 with ice crystals, and the wind chill close to minus 50 this morning. So it's still going to be more like a messy day. Snow in the southern half of the province whipping around, while up north it's still pretty cold. Winnipeg, almost minus 20 at the airport.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk is here. Pretty quiet so far?
Very quiet so far. Yeah, haven't heard of any major issues out there yet on the highways or on the roads here. But if you're walking your bike, you're driving, you see something, you can always give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
I just posted on Facebook, Corey, what does St. Patrick's Day mean to you? And when you lived in, we were watching the Newsnet this morning, people are already up early.
Oh, yeah.
On the East Coast, like literally they're up early partying. You used to live in Newfoundland. Is that normal?
Oh, it's like they make it a full day event there. Kids, like people bring their kids to the bar and they just hunker down. I remember I went obviously to the bar on St. Patrick's Day. I went there later, like a Manitoban, and then there are people there who are there since like 7 a.m.
So that's not staged for television. People actually show up on St. Patrick's Day at 7 in the morning.
They open up at the bars early, and everyone just kind of hangs out. There's kids running around with like their earmuffs on because it's loud. There's music pumping, and they just make a day of it. Just kind of hunker down in the bar as a family thing. Yeah.
Wow. Well, if you want to respond on what does St. Patrick's Day mean to you, as I mentioned, I just put that up on our Facebook page. So let us know what you're doing in Manitoba today, and you can always give us a call as well. 204-788-3205. I don't think anything's open quite this early in our province. Next, let's go to business news. Crystalie Ramlakan joins us with our report this morning. Hello.
Hey, good morning, Marcy.
So the Bank of Canada set to make its next interest rate announcement. That's coming tomorrow. What are we expecting?
Well, the central bank is expected to hold interest rates steady at 2.25% for the third time in a row. However, it could also strike a more hawkish tone with the surge in oil prices, which has raised concerns about inflation. So the price of oil has gone up more than 40% in the past 2 weeks, as the war in the Middle East has essentially closed the Strait of Hormuz. About a fifth of the world's oil supply usually travels through it, and that's pushed up gas and airline prices here in Canada. And it could also increase the price of food and other things. So while central banks tend to look through commodity price shocks when setting monetary policy, economists expect Governor Tiff Macklem to signal the bank is monitoring the situation closely and is prepared to adjust interest rates if necessary. So recent economic data, though, including disappointing trade numbers and a weak labor market report, suggests the Canadian economy continues to struggle, but higher oil prices mean the central bank will be less worried about inflation. Like those two things could kind of balance each other out. And the body that advises the world's central banks is urging policymakers not to rush reactions to the spike in global energy prices, calling it a textbook case of when to look through a supply shock if it proves to be temporary.
Let's go to another story. What is Canada doing to address the rising number of crypto scams?
While the global nature of cryptocurrency fraud is leading Canadian agencies to increase cooperation with international partners. This week, the Ontario Securities Commission and Ontario Provincial Police say they're building on past cooperative initiatives to try and reduce the harms of crypto investment fraud. And, we see examples of this all over online. Now, Operation Atlantic involves several agencies trying to identify and inform people who may have been tricked into giving access to their crypto assets through what's called approval phishing. So criminals use fake pop-ups or alerts that look like they're coming from trusted apps or services to trick people into giving access to their accounts. So Canadian agencies, including the RCMP, are collaborating with the U.S. Secret Service, the UK's National Crime Agency, and the UK Financial Conduct Authority. And enforcement agencies say people who think they may have fallen for such phishing efforts should stop communications with scammers, update wallet passwords or create a new one, revoke token approvals, and report the incident to local police and the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre.
And before you go this morning, we have new insight into how artificial intelligence, AI, is using Canadian journalism.
Yes, that's right. A new study says AI systems depend on Canadian journalism for the information they provide users, but don't offer proper attribution. Researchers at McGill University tested more than 2,200 Canadian news stories on major AI models. And the researchers found when ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and Grok were asked about Canadian news events, they did not provide source attribution about 82% of the time. And when the AI platforms were asked about specific articles, in most cases, they provided enough of the original reporting in their responses, making it unnecessary for the user to actually visit the original news source. So that means that, some outlets could be missing out on those clicks and the revenue that they make from it, and making miss it on the revenue from their own content. And the report says consumers rarely see an indication of whose journalism they are actually consuming. And the report says AI companies are extracting value from journalism while also accelerating the economic decline of the journalism they rely on. So in 2023, we know that the federal government passed the Online News Act, which requires large digital platforms to compensate media outlets for displaying their content. But as we know, Meta has ended up pulling news off its platforms in response to that, while Google has started making payments under the act.
Such a huge threat to journalism moving forward, and needing to figure that out. All right. Thank you very much, Crystalie.
Okay, thanks, Marcy.
That's Crystalie Ramlicam with our business report on CBC this morning. 6:47 a.m. Get ready for some snow, Manitoba. We've got 5 centimeters coming for Winnipeg, 2 for Thompson, 5 to 10 for Brandon. Going to be cold. Hopefully this is the last day of this bitter cold. Minus 17, well below normal for right now in Winnipeg. Our high is also below normal at minus 9, and that's what we're expecting. The local blowing snow will be because the winds are going to increase up to 60 km later this morning, and they'll be gusting from the south. Well, next on the show, you're ready for the Juno Awards. A week from Sunday, William Prince will be taking to the stage. It's his first solo performance at the Juno Awards, and he's coming off quite a tour. He's been down south all across the States touring with Boy Golden, and that's then going to continue here in Canada moving forward as well. So Boy Golden is opening up for William Prince. They tour across the country, Quebec and Ontario this month, a little stop at the Junos there. And then they're back in Winnipeg. Maybe you have tickets for the show at the Concert Hall on April 25th. There's only 11 seats left, so if you don't yet have tickets, you might want to check it out this morning. Meantime, we pulled a little Boy Golden for you. This is Boy Golden and Like a Child.
Left me here alone to die, here alone with my wicked ways. Who held my hand, led me down the stairs, left me with my cares and wicked ways. Well, I won't turn round again. No, I won't turn round again. Who shed a tear, who from their own eye let a diamond fly and turned away? Who got my number wrong, let me sing too long, turned away. Well, I won't back down again. No, I won't back down again. A little like a child, I love you. A little like a child, I need you near. A little like a child, I love you. You only tell me what I wanna hear. A little like a child, I love you. A little like a child, I keep you close. A little like a child, I love you. in my path. No match for my broom. They're no match for my tune. They're swept away. Knots in my legs. Oh, my aching back. When I make you laugh, they're swept away. What I got right now won't turn round again. What I got right now won't turn round again. A little like a child, I love you. A little like a child, I need you near. A little like a child, I love you. You only tell me what I want to hear. A little like a child,
Going golden like a child. He's on tour in Quebec and Ontario right now in support of William Prince. And they'll continue their tour across Canada following the Junos. Coming up a week from Sunday, it's 9 minutes to 7 a.m. on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on the app and YouTube. This is CBC. Well, next on the show, the Prime Minister wrapping up the official portion of his trip to Europe and the UK yesterday. The last stop, a visit to Buckingham Palace and a meeting with King Charles. Also on his own official tours, the leader of the official opposition, Pierre Poilievre. He's traveling through the U.S. To talk about both leaders and what they're saying, Sarah Ritchie's here. She's federal politics reporter with the Canadian Press. Good morning.
Good morning.
So let's start with the Prime Minister's trip. What was discussed around strengthening the relationship between the UK and Canada?
We know that UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and Mark Carney talked about support for Ukraine and defense production. They also talked about economic cooperation. You know, funny enough, Canada and the UK still don't have a free trade deal post-Brexit. There is an interim agreement that allows for almost tariff-free trade on almost everything, but back in June, the two leaders did commit to reopening those talks and trying to get a deal done once and for all. There was no update on that from this meeting. The readout from the Prime Minister's office said that the two of them did discuss their shared deep concern, they said, about what's happening in the Middle East and the need for stability and the protection of international shipping routes. Now, that comes on the same day, you'll recall, U.S. President Donald Trump was demanding help from allies, including NATO, to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and get tanker traffic moving through that critical shipping route again. It's not clear whether any European allies will actually step in to help. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said the UK and some other countries are working on some kind of a plan, but it's just not exactly clear what that would be. And it isn't at all clear whether Canada would step in to help or if it could step in to help. With that, Prime Minister Mark Carney has said Canada is never going to be involved in the U.S. and Israeli offensive in Iran. And so we're waiting to see sort of what happens with that in the next couple of days.
Mm-hmm. Lots of questions here. Let's turn to Pierre Poilievre and what he is doing. He's on his own trip, as I mentioned, through the States. How is his messaging to start with aligning with the Prime Minister's?
Yeah, so Poilievre started this swing through the U.S. in the heartland of North American auto manufacturing. He's now in the heartland of American oil and gas territory. So he's in Texas for the next couple of days, meetings with industry representatives and energy officials. One way that he and Prime Minister Carney are aligned is that the two of them often talk about Canada as a reliable source of energy. You know, we've heard Mark Carney and the Liberals say that Canada can and should be an energy superpower. That's certainly something that, you know, we've heard a similar tone from Pierre Poilievre on this, talking about the fact that Canada can be a reliable and consistent producer of energy for the U.S. You know, he wants to see Canada really reaffirm its relationship with the Americans and try to go back essentially to a time when there wasn't such a difficult trade negotiation and trade war. You know, it's fascinating the way Pierre Poilievre has positioned this trip. He's talked about the fact that there is only one prime minister at a time, and he's skipping Washington, D.C. He doesn't have any meetings with federal officials that I know of. What we've heard from his team so far is that he's meeting with state-level officials. And so he is really leaving sort of the main negotiating to the prime minister and to the government, which I think is obviously a deliberate choice and the proper thing. But he is trying to make his pitch that Canada is a reliable partner while he's down there.
Could also be very politically strategic as well to not push for those meetings in Washington, of course.
Certainly, yeah. There's an interesting, you know, line that he has to walk here because as we've seen in consistent polls over the last few months, the number of Canadians who are unhappy with Donald Trump and the MAGA movement writ large is significant. But of the Canadians who are kind of happy with Donald Trump or who like Donald Trump a little bit, almost all of them fit into the conservative voting base. And so Pierre Poilievre has to try not to alienate those folks while also not appearing to be too cozy with the MAGA movement.
And then he's going to New York to deliver a speech. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the last thing on his agenda this week. He'll be in New York giving a speech about the future of Canada-U.S. relationship.
Sarah, thank you very much for outlining what the leaders are doing, leader of the opposition and the prime minister, and how what conversations their travels are bringing. We appreciate your time.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
Sarah Ritchie, federal politics reporter with the Canadian Press, filling in for Ryan Tumulty today. Every Tuesday on the program, we check in with Ottawa for Ottawa Reports. It is 4 minutes now to 7 o'clock. World Report is coming up in a few minutes here, the latest in national and international news. Let's dip into what's happening in the forecast first, and then we'll give you a couple of headlines of what's coming up in the news and also in our show in the next hour. In the forecast headline, snow is what you want to be thinking about today. 5 centimeters for Winnipeg, 5 to 10 in Brandon, and then 2 centimeters in Thompson. Mostly cloudy across most of the province. Right now in Winnipeg, we're waking to minus 17. Brandon's minus 14. Thompson's minus 20. Winnipeg's going to be around minus 9 today, really windy. Brandon is looking for also a high of minus 3 today, so milder than Winnipeg. And winds will also be gusty for you in Brandon. And then up in Thompson, your winds will be lighter, but your high is minus 10. So it's actually going to be a little bit warmer. Factor in wind chill, though, still, you're going to be wearing your winter coat. Traffic, pretty good so far, so early. 788-3093. If you have anything to report, you can let Corey know. Speaking of traffic, in the next hour of the show, is there a road out there you barely call a road, riddled with so many potholes it shakes and rattles while you're driving? Are you like me and you're going to hit a pothole already? Yesterday, I slammed right into one and went, oh, I missed it. If so, CAA wants to hear from you. If you're watching the potholes, it's their annual Where's the Worst Road? We'll tell you all about it the next hour. Also, did you miss out on tickets to the Professional Women's Hockey League game that is coming to Winnipeg on Sunday? It's sold out. Well, we've got you covered. We have a contest we're going to launch at 7:40. We'll tell you how you and a friend can see the game in person. We are giving away tickets, and so stay tuned. We'll tell you how you can win. 3 minutes to 7 o'clock right now. Heather Wells is joining us next from our CBC Manitoba News Centre with more headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, Manitoba's move to expand tenant protections is being met with caution by some advocates who say the province is missing an important loophole. Last week, the government proposed new rules to bolster rent control, but left out tenant discounts. Landlords can offer a reduction on the rent price, but they can also change or remove it when leases are renewed, leaving the tenants with an increase. So we'll hear more about that. Also, a pro golfer with a Winnipeg connection is making a name for himself. You may have seen it this past weekend if you were watching the Players. Sudarshan Yelamaraju tied for 5th place at the Players in Florida. The 24-year-old got his start hitting balls with his dad at the Golf Dome. We'll hear that story in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
Winnipeg Police Chief Gene Bowers is also on our program today. He's going to be live in studio after 8 o'clock on the show. So about an hour from now, he should arrive at CBC. I did post on Facebook a question. What is one thing he could do to maintain or regain public trust in the service? So we're asking for you to weigh in with your perspective. Quite a number of thoughtful comments here. Carol Hjording writing in, accountability. Ideally, all Winnipeg Police Service frontline officers will be equipped with and mandatory used body-worn cameras. We do have a pilot project coming for police wearing body cams coming up in Winnipeg starting in June, so we will ask them about that. Louise Willowmay weighing in saying they should add social workers to every team and every shift. Would that be something that could be possible? The police chief is here live after 8. But right now, it's 1 minute to 7 o'clock, and World Report's next.
Clicks. Choose the algorithm. Choose doom scrolling at 3 a.m. Eyes tired, brain rewired. Choose headlines that scream. Choose fake friends, deepfakes, bots, and comment wars that never end. Choose truth bent and broken until you can't tell up from down or right from wrong. Choose the chaos. Choose the noise. Or don't. Choose news, not noise. CBC News.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Martina Fitzgerald. Israel's defense minister says the IDF has killed 2 senior Iranian officials. Israel Katz says Iran's security chief and the commander of the Revolutionary Guard's Basij force have both been killed in early morning airstrikes. There has been no comment yet from Iran. It is stepping up attacks on its Gulf neighbors. That is an air defense system taking out an Iranian drone last night during an attack on the U.S. embassy in Baghdad. Iraqi security officials say 4 drones were shot down. Some shrapnel did fall inside the embassy compound. The U.S. and Israeli-led war with Iran is preventing a highly anticipated meeting between the leaders of the world's 2 largest economies. U.S. President Donald Trump is postponing his visit to China. Lisa Xing has reaction from Beijing.
In the center of a Beijing park is a statue of a large steel pole holding up a cloud-shaped stone, a tribute to decades of harmony between China and the U.S. But some who stroll by aren't feeling that friendship. He's kind of reckless, says this man of U.S. President Donald Trump. He interferes here, meddles there. It'd be better if he minds his own business. These sentiments coming after Trump announced he's delaying his high-stakes meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping because of the U.S. and Israel's war in Iran that spread across the region, postponing the visit for about a month.
I'd love to, but because of the war, I want to be here. I have to be here.
This after Trump mused he might put off the visit if China does not help unblock the Strait of Hormuz, a critical waterway for oil shipments from the Gulf region. The meeting increasingly overshadowed by the war, by trade tensions, and after Washington announced it would investigate trade practices of several countries, including China. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian said Tuesday China notes U.S. clarifications on the possible postponement and would keep in touch with the U.S. administration about the visit. Zizhen Wang is with the China Center for Globalization in Beijing.
President Trump changes his mind rather frequently, so he now says he wants to delay it by a month. But who knows what will happen in a month?
A delay that doesn't help an already tenuous relationship between 2 great powers. Lisa Xing, CBC News, Beijing.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer says support for Ukraine cannot fall to the wayside as energy and attention turns to the conflict with Iran.
It's vital that we continue to focus on supporting Ukraine. We cannot allow the war in the Gulf to turn into a windfall for Putin.
Today, Starmer is hosting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in London. This is also deadline day for Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich to pay $4.5 billion to victims of the Ukraine war. The money is supposed to come from his sale of the Chelsea FC soccer team. If he does not pay up, the British government will take him to court. More than 10 million people in Cuba are without power. The country's shaky power grid has been further strained by fuel shortages. Gas and water are also running low, largely because the U.S. is blocking countries from selling fuel to Cuba. Tony Waterman is in Washington with details. Tony, what more can you tell us about the situation in Cuba?
And this is really just the latest in a series of major blackouts that have become longer and longer. And Cuba's government says that it's working to restore power, but it is very slow going, only about 5% restored at this point, according to state media. But the country's electricity grid is old, it is crumbling. And for the last 3 months, it has been starved of oil. And it's becoming more dire every single day. People have been taking to the streets at night to protest these rolling blackouts. A couple of days ago, demonstrators actually attacked a Communist Party office. Riots are incredibly rare in Cuba, but people are growing frustrated as the country's energy and economic crises deepen.
U.S. President Donald Trump, he talked about Cuba yesterday. Do you know what his plan is?
We don't know exactly what his plan is, but Cuba has certainly been in the president's line of vision for a while now. But on Monday, President Trump mused about taking over the island.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, think I could do anything I want with it. You want another thing?
Last week, the president had said that he was considering taking action in Cuba, but that he planned to wait until the Iran mission is over. What exactly that action may be is unclear. It could be this quick in and out military strike like he took in Venezuela. And according to the New York Times, the Trump administration wants to push Cuba's president out of office. And this is all part of this larger national security strategy for the Trump administration to focus on the Western Hemisphere.
That's Tony Waterman in Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Tony.
Thank you.
Afghanistan's Taliban government says an airstrike on a drug rehab center in Kabul has killed more than 400 people. At least 200 others are injured. Rescuers are scrambling to dig injured people from under the rubble. The Afghan government is accusing Pakistan of targeting a civilian hospital. Pakistan denies that, saying its forces did carry out strikes on Monday, but only on military infrastructure. The latest conflict between the two countries began late last month when the Taliban government launched cross-border attacks in response to Pakistani airstrikes inside Afghanistan. The latest snapshot of Canada's housing market indicates sales are sluggish in many cities and prices are falling. Senior business reporter Nisha Patel has more on the conditions causing markets to cool.
It's a market that is kind of a slow, very low, few buyers entering the market at this stage.
Home sales fell 8% in February compared to the same time a year ago, according to new data from the Canadian Real Estate Association. Even markets that have been hot in recent months are starting to cool, with sales tumbling in St. John, Regina, and Calgary. RBC economist Robert Hogue says economic uncertainty and a softer job market could be keeping potential buyers on the sidelines.
A lot has to do with confidence that is lacking right now. It's been lacking over the last several months.
The benchmark home price slid nearly 5% year over year to about $661,000. Hogue says in expensive cities like Toronto and Vancouver, stalled demand could drive prices down even further.
Buyers have a lot more options. They're not much in a rush. Affordability is still a significant issue, despite having improved quite notably over the last year and a half.
The housing market is also adjusting to lower population growth after the federal government tightened immigration policy. While demand usually picks up in the spring, experts say this year activity may be more restrained than usual. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Teachers in Alberta say there is a growing disconnect in their classrooms. They say parents don't trust the school system, and that's making it difficult to teach their children. The CBC's Elise Stolte reports.
Retired Calgary principal Matt Christensen puts it bluntly.
You're the face of what's being taught in the school.
That's one reason for the breakdown in trust between teachers and some parents. When CBC reached out to Alberta teachers months after the province-wide strike, we heard a growing concern about parental mistrust. More than 6,000 teachers responded to our questionnaire. Some said parents doubt teachers' expertise, don't back teachers in discipline, or are openly hostile. In rural Alberta, 2 assistant principals said they no longer live in the town where they work. They blame it on the tone of provincial politics and the lingering effects of the pandemic. Brian Dykema is with the Cardis Institute, a Christian think tank. He thinks this is a Canada-wide issue and points to the 1 Million March for Children 3 years ago, where demonstrators took issue with the topics of gender and pronouns. For Dykema, the issue is structural. He says school districts grew more bureaucratic, and now some parents feel their voice has no impact.
And particularly if you're seeing your kids being taught things that you have a challenge with. It's like a group of people, they've all been educated in the same place. There is a uniformity of thought.
Calgary school trustee Nancy Close says she saw it at the doorstep during the recent election.
That's been happening since COVID, but we've also had a really difficult school year. I think it's something that we need to attend to.
One district that flagged the issue in a recent town hall is committing to greater transparency. Officials at a second say they regularly talk about this with staff and are trying to build bridges through family lunch. Elise Stolte, CBC News, Calgary.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Martina Fitzgerald. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live in downtown Winnipeg, and it's going to be chilly again today. Some snow, in fact, coming across most of Manitoba. You're with CBC's Morning Show. Information Radio, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. This hour on the program, we are going to be talking about rent discounts. Sounds like a win, right? Getting a discounted rent. But some tenants advocates locally say they're a backdoor for a hefty increase down the road. We're going to hear from a Winnipegger who's worried that his next rent-controlled lease might increase by $200. Stay tuned for that interview. Coming up, that report just before 8 o'clock. Also this hour on the show, if you missed out on tickets to the Professional Women's Hockey League game coming up in Winnipeg this Sunday, we've got you covered. We have a contest, pair of tickets to give away. We'll tell you how you can win at 7:40. And if you feel like you're losing on the roads, it might be because they're starting to be riddled with potholes. We're going to tee up CAA's annual contest, looking for the worst road in the city. Right now, let's go to Heather Welsh. She has other headlines for us. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a Winnipeg man worries about the province's decision to back away from a timeline for opening its supervised consumption site. Chuck Neufeld says that facility is key to preventing deaths. Earlier this month, the Premier said a temporary supervised consumption site could open within a week or two, but now he says it could be weeks or months. So we'll hear more reaction to that. As well, Alan Chan hopes a proposed bill could identify who is being shut out of hockey and other sports in Manitoba. The NDP government says it's promoting Inclusion in Amateur Sport Act will help identify barriers to play in some communities. Your next local news coming up at 7:30.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks.
I should just clarify, I said it wrong. CAA is looking for the worst road in Manitoba, not just in Winnipeg. So we'll hear more in a second. Abby, it's time for the forecast.
Do back roads count?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I think it's got to be paved and have a pothole. I don't think you can go with a back road.
Because a lot of people struggle to get their cars out of the back roads for real.
Well, the back, you mean, in the city, the back lanes maybe should count. I was thinking of back gravel roads, but yeah, there's some bad ruts out there right now, eh?
Yeah, you try to get out and there's a fence there.
I know.
Anyway, Marcy, we're waking up to a blustery Tuesday. There's a system coming through the southern part of the province. We're anticipating that to hit us as the morning rush hour gets on the way. But we're still tracking extreme cold far north. No warnings in place, but we're seeing current temperatures from minus 12 in Melita this morning. Then we're tracking close to minus 33, 34 in the Churchill region. We should be seeing this heavy mix of snow in the south and then wind chills up north. For Winnipeg and nearby areas, we are expecting more clouds to come in, snow and local blowing snow beginning this morning. Highs will be around minus 9. Current temperatures holding steady around minus 17, minus 18 at this time, with breezy south winds just making that morning wind chill feel close to minus 31. So there's a risk of frostbite if you're making transition from one bus to another. And later tonight, we should get freezing drizzle once the snow tapers off. Across the southern regions, we're also seeing snow, cloudy conditions, and snow will be coming our way. Up north, we're looking at minus 33 in Churchill at this time, and the wind chill there, minus 48. Winnipeg, minus 17, blowing snow on its way. It's that sometime later this morning.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk, the commute has been really quiet again.
Yeah, really quiet. I mean, those ruts, though, are no joke, though. It's like,
no, I know.
It's like driving to the chamois, but your car gets dirtier.
Yeah, it totally does, yeah.
Yeah, though, as for, very quiet out there. Slippery, though. Keep in mind on those sidewalks, though, there was a couple slippery points. I almost fell on my butt this morning a couple times. But if you're walking, you're biking, you're driving, you see something, you can let me know. I can tell you that on Manitoba 511, I was looking at the highway conditions, and I'm starting to see conditions starting to deteriorate a little bit around Russell, Roblin, in the far west of the province. And then as that system starts making its way further eastward, you'll probably get poor visibility throughout western Manitoba this morning. It's supposed to hit Winnipeg around 10 or so. So heads up there. If you do see something else going on, you can give us a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
I want to read a couple comments actually now in advance of our interview, which is coming up in about an hour from now with Gene Bowers, Winnipeg's police chief.
Mm-hmm.
He is 1 year to the day, actually, today, exactly, since he was sworn in as police chief, and what a year he's had, of course. So our question is, Winnipeg Police Chief Gene Bowers, what's one thing he could do to maintain or to regain public trust in the service? So you've been writing in. Marilyn Kershane said, why do the higher-ups think they have all the answers? Can you imagine what guidance he would receive with an elders council with different nationalities? Rick Koss saying, have a community presence. We rarely see a police car in our neighborhood in North Kildonan. Make vehicle and traffic safety a priority, not just speed control and tickets, but vehicles with burnt out lights, broken windshields, plastic over broken windows, snow-covered rear and front windshields. They're everywhere. There's never a police car in sight, Rick says. Jason Carter wants more officers on bikes, full-time, not voluntary, sunny days fillers. He writes, community service became a meaningful slogan when police saw cops on bikes dealing with the same risk and conditions as pedestrians, as riders, as wheelers. Bike cops became human too, and respect for bike cops went through the roof when they stopped lines of traffic to make serious arrests or would see phone-using drivers that would be ticketed minutes later because of waiting at a waiting police car. So a lot of people writing in here with some ideas for a lot of things. Kristen Lynch just weighing in, I think our police do a good job and they get limited praise and resources. We have a tough city to police. Resources need to be on hand in neighborhoods where crime happens more often. People blame the police for everything. This is Kristen's writing into us, saying officers typically respond to crisis and become reactive and crisis-driven, PTSD. This is totally her point of view. We are shocked that they might profile, but she feels they're being defensive. So, you know, this is Kristen writing in with her point of view about views on police. Geraldine Gruzik wrote in, and this is the final one that I'm going to share because we will ask the police chief about this. She wants annual misconduct reports published with outcomes. She wants disciplinary actions and investigation timelines and regular public briefings on police accountability, and to restore or expand community engagement programs as well. Those are a few of her ideas. You're all weighing in here with your ideas. We'd love to hear from you. And we also just want to remind you that just on March 6th, so a couple weeks ago, the police chief was in front of the police board with 10 of his own thoughts, not just thoughts, but 10 of his own measurements of what he's looking to do to improve the service and where they've already made changes. So you can read about that story. It's on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. You can go back and read about that story. And then Jean Bowers will be here an hour from now. Well, you might have already hit a pothole today. If you drive in Manitoba, there's a chance you might have. And while many streets have a bumper pothole on them, some are, of course, worse than others. CAA Manitoba is back with their annual search for the worst road in the province. CBC's Jim Agapito met with CAA on one of Winnipeg's roughest roads, Empress Avenue.
We're out here on Empress Avenue outside the CAA Manitoba offices with Ewald Friesen, who's the Manager of Government and Community Relations for CAA Manitoba. Now, this road has been on CAA's worst road list. Can you describe what makes it one of the worst roads in Manitoba?
So what we can see here, obviously, is potholes along most of this stretch that we're standing on right now. We can see faded road markings, which increasingly is a matter of great frustration. We can see congestion, which could also be another one. We don't have particularly good pedestrian infrastructure on Empress, which means that it makes an appearance routinely on our top 10 worst roads list.
What are some of the worst roads from previous years?
So we've seen some usual suspects, Empress obviously being one of them, Saskatchewan being one of them, Kenaston has made an appearance here. Those are just some key. Oh, Leela Avenue is also a good one that I think you and I have talked about in the past. Outside of Winnipeg, there's been 18th Street in Brandon, 26th Street in Brandon, Highway 34, 307 in the Whiteshell. There's been a number of different roads from all over the province who have been nominated. Interestingly, too, last year we saw the highest number of rural roads ever nominated in our campaign, which was a first for us.
Why do you think that is?
I think it tells a story about how important roads are to rural Manitobans. Everything from something as simple as your safety and security, how do you get to that doctor's appointment, all the way to how do we move goods around, how do I support my family, how do I get to work. All of these things are obviously factored in.
What makes a bad road, and can you describe the requirements for this year?
So the requirements are really up to you. We allow you to put anything in there that we may have missed, but I think the key ones that we usually see are, of course, potholes, crumbling curves, We see poorly timed street lights, poor pedestrian infrastructure. That can be bad sidewalks or even the absence of sidewalks entirely. We can see road heaving, which is quite common as well. Anything that really affects your ability to have a smooth commute out there on the road.
Now, people might wonder why CAA runs this campaign. What's its purpose?
We do an annual Worst Road survey, and what we learned this year was a statistic we've seen a lot. 92% of Manitobans said that they are concerned or very concerned with the state of our roads. 82% of Manitobans said that they do not believe that our roads are being repaired in a timely fashion. Also, just general asking questions like, have you experienced vehicle damage as a result of a poor road? And 45% of our respondents said yes, indeed, they have experienced vehicle damage. Of that proportion, 75% said they paid out of pocket rather than making a claim with MPI. So naturally, this led us to ask that very important question, well, how much are Manitobans paying as a result of poor roads? And the average cost amount is $944, which is up from last year. So of course we decided, rather than allowing Manitobans to complain to perhaps their mechanic or their co-worker or their spouse, take those concerns to your friends at CAA, and we'll use it in our advocacy and lobby efforts to decision makers, and maybe have some of these roads reprioritized and fixed for repair.
Do you have any tips on how drivers can be safe on some of the bad roads out there?
Yeah, so if you're encountering a pothole, be sure to slow down. You never know what's underneath that puddle, obviously. Slow down. You wouldn't want to swerve too much because obviously a pothole can damage your vehicle, but though that kind of erratic behavior on the road can obviously affect traffic everywhere.
How do people participate in this campaign?
So you can go to caaworstroads.com. You can vote once a day, as many times a day as you wish. Every nomination you make automatically enters you into a contest for free gas for a year. We have a lot of various options that you can choose from.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Free gas for a year. CAAworstroads.com. Jim Agapito out with Ewald Friesen, who's with CAA, the manager of Manitoba's manager of government and community relations. So get it in there if you want to tell them about a pothole road in Manitoba. We do have Dave calling the commuter line about where he's driving. A stalled transit bus blocking northbound Pembina Highway approaching Corden. Keep right to pass there. Here's a bit of music before sports. This is Nova Scotia's Ria May and a track from her latest called 2. The track's called The Ring. Damn.
Tell them why you try so hard. Do you ever push till you land on Mars? Looking like a burnt up star. Do I lie or cry and make another collusion? If I'm alone this time, back and forth, and maybe then you won't decide. I'ma take a long, long walk, clear my head until the voices stop. If these walls could talk, they would shut up and listen.
Maria May and Dam. The Ring Dam is the actual name of the tune, as in boxing ring. She hails from Nova Scotia. If you want to check out her music and support Canada, she just wrapped up her latest tour in Halifax over the weekend. Let's get to what's going on in morning sports. We have Paul McGowan in for Scott this morning. Hello.
Hi, Marcy.
So let's start with big news, actually, in the world of hockey.
Yeah, the NHL general managers are meeting down in Florida, and the big news to come out of those meetings yesterday is the return of the World Cup of Hockey. More best on best action following that great performance at the Olympics. And of course, the World Cup of Hockey is just the Olympics, but with a big, ugly trophy at the end of it instead of a gold medal. Now, it is a great idea, but there's already some controversy brewing. The league announced this tournament yesterday, and a reporter asked whether Russia will be allowed to participate. Here's NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman.
We're going to see how things develop. Time will tell. There isn't an immediate need or urgency to make that decision, so let's see how things play out.
Bettman, unsurprisingly, trying to hedge there when asked about Russian participation. But then later in the day, we heard from a Czech reporter, Robert Rampa, who said that from what he was hearing, Finland, Czechia, and Sweden would all boycott the tournament if Russia is allowed to play. So it feels like the likely default is just that Russia, for a third straight tournament, will not be part of things, but some tension right off the bat with this World Cup of Hockey.
I'm now Googling the trophy. Apparently it was made by a Toronto designer like Frank Gehry, like a well-known, but it does sort of look like a tulip vase. Like it doesn't really look like, it's a beautiful tulip vase.
Like a vase wrapped in plexiglass or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And they change it. They change it every couple of years too, and it's always bad. It's
Oh really?
Anyways.
Okay, so maybe this is just the 2004 version.
Yes,
that's the one I'm looking at. Let's go to another story here. Speaking of international tournament, Canada's on a pretty good run right now at the Women's World Curling Championships.
Yeah, Carrie Anderson just continues to get it done in Calgary. Now, she was cruising to victories. Yesterday was a bit of a stiffer test in the form of Denmark and Madeleine Dupont. But Anderson and Canada win 9-6 to improve to 4-0. And they are right back at it today. They've got 2 draws on the schedule. And here is Carrie Anderson on trying to find downtime at a tournament like this.
This schedule's a grind, and we're gonna just get some downtime. It's a hard schedule, but we're used to it. I don't sleep at all. For real, like I don't. It's awful. Yeah, I think at the Scotties final, I slept for, I think it was 9 hours in 2 days, and it was awful. But, you know, that's me. That's how I do it, and that's why I got bags under my eyes.
Carrie Anderson is that good on 4 hours of sleep. Just imagine if she got a full 8 hours. Italy and Switzerland on tap for her today. Some tough tests and still 4 days of round-robin play remaining in Calgary.
Let's finish with basketball, Paul, and the labor dispute in the WNBA.
Well, the update is that there is continued positive movement between the league and the players' union. The two sides met yesterday and met, I think it was 14 hours yesterday. The meeting wrapped at 3:30 a.m. New York time. And between these marathon bargaining sessions and both sides reporting progress, it does feel like something is close. Here's Brianna Stewart on what the players are fighting for.
The growth that we've made has been unlike any other. So we want to be able to really take advantage of that and make sure that we're not the ones getting left behind anymore. The biggest difference is figuring out exactly what percentage we can be at. That's been our 17, 18-month fight. You know, we're getting close. Like, it's March. We don't want to delay, but we also have the strike authorization vote ready for if we need it.
Yeah, it is the middle of March. The WNBA season is supposed to start on May 8th. That is starting to seem unrealistic. We still have free agency to get through. We have the entry draft. And then, of course, we have the expansion draft for the incoming Toronto Tempo. So whenever an agreement does get done, if we are in fact close, it will kick off a chaotic 6 to 8 weeks in the WNBA.
All right. Thanks a lot, Paul.
Thanks, Marcy.
Paul McGowan with Morning Sports on CBC. We'll have a full look at your regional forecast coming up here on the show. And then, if you thought you weren't able to go to the PWHL game on Sunday because tickets are sold out, do we have something for you? A contest coming up. We have a pair of tickets to give away. This will be super exciting because it is, as I mentioned, sold out. Montreal Victoire and Ottawa Charge coming to Winnipeg. Stay tuned. We'll give you a chance to win those tickets after your CBC News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 7:30. It's minus 17. Get set for some St. Patrick's Day snow, about 5 centimeters. That strong south wind is going to create blowing snow as well. All of that starting later this morning. Our high today is minus 9. Manitoba's move to expand tenant protections is being met with caution by some advocates who say the province is missing an important loophole. Last week, the government proposed new rules to bolster rent control, but it left out tenant discounts. Landlords in Manitoba can offer a reduction on the price of rent, but they can also change or remove it when leases are renewed, leaving tenants with an increase. Utaka Dirks is with the Right to Housing Coalition.
When the market conditions change, it allows them to jack that rent up. And that sort of goes against the whole principle of rent regulation, which is to stabilize the rents and which is to prevent rent gouging. But this allows that practice.
The Property Managers Association says even when the discounts are removed and rent increases, tenants should still only be asked to pay within what the province allows a landlord to charge. You can hear more on this story coming up in this next half hour right here on Information Radio. A Manitoba man who lost his son to an overdose says he's okay with the province taking more time to ensure its supervised consumption site is done properly. But he still wants to see a plan, including a date for that site to open. Earlier this month, Premier Wapkanu said a temporary supervised consumption site could open within a week or two. Now he says it could be weeks or months. Chuck Neufeld thinks the site will save lives.
This is part of their due diligence to make sure things are going to go as planned and correctly. So I think that's important, more important than trying to rush something through.
Neufeld says providing a timeline shows the province is committed to the project. The province does not need a permit from the federal government to operate a temporary facility. Drones and rockets were launched today at the U.S. Embassy in Iraq as Iran and its proxies retaliate. U.S. President Donald Trump is trying to bring more allies into its war against Iran, but most countries are saying no. Andrew Leslie is a former commander of the Canadian Army.
I would strongly recommend that we stay as far away from that as is possible, mainly because let's just look at the track record of what the President of the United States has said. The belittling comments, the 51st state, the illogical tariff war. He did not consult with the government of Canada ahead of time vis-a-vis intentions with Iran. And do we trust him to have our sailors' backs? Should we deploy our warships there and they get into trouble?
On Monday, Canada's defense minister said Ottawa is considering whether to help out Gulf countries if they ask for support. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. A new program offers better accessibility for rural and northern Manitoba. The Manitoba League of Persons with Disabilities is providing free portable wheelchair ramps for businesses and venues in small communities. League President Alan Mankiewicz says the program started in Winnipeg and is now branching out.
We initially had the project focused in Winnipeg, but then thought, we're not called the Winnipeg League of Persons with Disabilities. We're called the Manitoba League of Persons with Disabilities. So why not see who's interested in rural Manitoba?
Anyone who is interested in applying for a ramp can visit the Manitoba League of Persons with Disability website. Alan Chan hopes a proposed bill could identify who is being shut out of hockey and other sports in Manitoba. The NDP government says its Promoting Inclusion in Amateur Sport Act will help identify barriers to play in some communities. Chan is a director at the nonprofit Our Game Hockey. That group has worked with the Winnipeg Jets and Winnipeg School Division to help get young newcomers and underrepresented groups on the ice.
There would be a lot of groundwork needed to get this moving. You'll see the fruits of the labor, in 5 to 10 years' time. This is something, even for myself, that I never thought I would see. To see this new bill coming and being introduced is exciting.
Chan hopes the province connects with sports organizations already collecting some of the demographic data the sports minister wants to track. A pro golfer with a Winnipeg connection is making a name for himself. This past weekend, Sudarshan Yelamaraju tied for 5th place at the PGA's Players Tournament in Florida. The 24-year-old was born in India and moved with his family to Winnipeg as a preschooler. It's where he started hitting balls with his dad at the Golf Dome. When he was 11, he moved to the Toronto area. Derek Ingram is head coach of Golf Canada's men's national team. He worked with Yelamaraju and was at the Players.
Incredible for a young man from Canada who's worked super hard, and a guy from Winnipeg as well. Started the final round with lots of pressure and played unreal.
Yelamaraju's finish was the best by a PGA Tour rookie in almost 15 years. I'm taking my grandsons to the Golf Dome. You can find the latest news at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Right?
Yeah.
Totally. And how much pressure. What I was admiring was how he played under pressure. So he got to the 18th hole, because I watched this in the weekend, and he was already sort of obviously doing well. Knew he finished top 10. He actually dropped a shot on the last hole. He bogeyed. But I admired it because he was going for it. He was going for a birdie putt. So I thought to myself, wow, I wouldn't have the guts to do that. If I got to that point, I'd be like, okay, just finish.
Really cool player and precise. Even the commentators were commenting on just, how he just keeps it together. He's focused.
Yeah, he didn't look nervous at all.
Yeah.
I'd be freaking out. Okay, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Which is why I'm not great at golf, by the way. Okay, let's get to what's happening in our regional forecast with Abby. We got some snow coming.
Yeah, we got snow coming. We're tracking this system that's going to be sweeping through southern Manitoba this morning. Up north, it's a different story. It's pretty cold as we travel towards Churchill this morning. However, across the province, we're tracking temperatures between minus 13 and minus 34. We will see that mix of snow and biting wind chills in most parts of the province. Winnipeg right now, we're looking at temperatures hovering around minus 17, minus 18, minus 19, depending on where you are. And some clouds will be rolling in shortly. We'll see snow and local blowing snow beginning sometime this morning. We warm up to a high of minus 9 later in the day, but the current temperature is going to be holding steady around minus 18 with some breeze from the south. And the wind chill this morning makes it feel close to minus 31. For the Pembina Valley region, the Westman, the Parkland, the Interlake region, Morden, Brandon, Winkler, we're seeing temperatures hover between minus 13 and minus 16. Also, cloudy conditions, incoming snow, highs between minus 3, minus 8. Gimli sitting at minus 20. Also, snow and blowing snow arriving this morning, warming up to minus 10 from the central into the northern part of the province. The Par, Flin Flon, Lane Lake, we're looking at light snow falling there. Current temperatures between minus 14 and minus 16. Highs between minus 9 and minus 12. While Thompson and nearby regions are moving towards Split Lake, we're seeing cloudy conditions there. Minus 20 at this time. Periods of snow also started this morning. You warm up to a high of minus 10. While far north to Dooley Gillam, we're seeing frigid conditions there, close to minus 31 with highs around minus 20. The morning wind chill feels close to minus 44. While for the Churchill and York region, where we're seeing the cold spot, minus 33 at this time. Ice crystals in the air. Highs will struggle to get to minus 25, though the extreme wind chill feels like minus 48, which means frostbite in minutes. So take it easy. Overall, we're just anticipating this snowy day for the southern half of the province, while far north we're still seeing those bitter Arctic air gripping things. For the city, snow moves in shortly. We're currently around minus 17.
All right, thanks for teeing it up.
Thank you.
Corey.
Yeah, the biggest issue right now is northbound Pembina, just approaching Corden there, Confusion Corner. Stalled bus in the median lane, actually essentially blocking off that part of northbound Pembina that you go off to go left onto Osborne. So as you can imagine, that's throwing some folks off this morning. So just heads up there. That's one of those stalled two double, I don't want to say double decker, whatever the long one, the really long
The
buses.
bendy buses.
The bendy buses. Thank you. I don't know what the official word is. There's someone-
Accordion buses? I call them bendy buses.
Bendy bus,
Yeah.
accordion buses. Yes, one of those is blocking northbound Pembina there, just approaching Confusion Quarter. If you do see anything else going on, give me a call. Particularly Roblin and Russell area, there's starting to be some poor visibility from that system making its way towards Winnipeg here. Give me a call if you see anything else. So 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Well, I'm pretty excited for this next part of the show because I've heard a lot of people that were a little bit disappointed that they can't go on Sunday. I'm talking about the Professional Women's Hockey League game coming to Winnipeg on Sunday. The game's a sellout. If you missed your shot at getting tickets, don't worry. We have you covered at CBC. We have a pair of tickets to give away, and all you need to do is this.
O'Neill has a lead. She shoots and she scores!
So you might have done that a time or two on your couch watching a hockey game, but we want you to call the listener line and very simply give us your best. She shoots, she scores. Abby, we should cue it up again. Let's let people listen. So channel this in your words, in your tone. Be the announcer.
O'Neill has a lead. She shoots and she scores!
Maybe you'll hold it as long as some of those soccer announcers, right? Oh, okay. So she shoots, she scores. That's what we're looking for. To enter, you have two options. You can call the listener line, 204-788-3205, and use your best hockey commentator voice. You can leave it on the voicemail. Or you can email us a short video if that works better for your time. If you want to make a video of yourself doing this, win@cbc.ca, or maybe you have a little one, you want to help them, so you're going to video them instead of the call. So win@cbc.ca with a video, or 204-788-3205. We're going to take and play entries all week long. We will pick a winner on random on Friday. So we're going to pick the winner on Friday. So that means you have to have your entries in by Thursday at 5 o'clock. Thursday at 5 o'clock, we will close the contest. So call us and tell us she shoots, she scores. Do it in a better voice than that. Contest closes Thursday at 5. Winner announced for the tickets to the PWHA game on Sunday in Winnipeg. We'll announce those the winners on Friday morning. Time right now is 7:42 a.m. and today is St. Patrick's Day. And because it's fallen on a Tuesday, as you can imagine, a lot of the different events all around town to celebrate and to gather happened over the weekend. But there are a couple things going on today I'm going to mention. One of them actually is about hockey. So tonight it's going to be special stuff going on if you are going to the Jets game. So they're going to be having lucky pucks at the Jets game. So you purchase one, you don't know whose signature you got, and then once you open it up, you figure that out. And there's a meet and greet if you have a puck that has the right name on it. So Josh Morrissey, Nino Niederreiter, and Gabe Velarde are going to be doing the meet and greet. So it's a whole thing happening with lucky pucks at the Jets game tonight. Also this afternoon, Cycle Studio, if you want to get busy and get some exercise in, they're doing a Luck of the Irish cycle and a Lucky Girl energy cycle today. So that's happening this afternoon. Tonight, Times Changed event for the St. Patrick's Day. They've got a bad country honky-tonk show going on. And so a whole bunch of things happening. Plus, if you want to do more traditional festivities, this afternoon, starting at 12 o'clock at the Irish Association of Manitoba on Erin there, you can head down in St. James and you can check out their ecumenical service, which is happening at noon, because, of course, the roots of St. Patrick's Day are religious. And then they are having some celebrations. So the all-day festivities really kick off at 1 o'clock. They've got a choir, the Irish Mist Choir, the trad players. They've got set dancers, McDonald School of Irish Dance, Glenwara Pipe Band, Dominion Pipe Band, Flatland Cayley, and McConnell School of Irish Dance. So all kinds of things going on. If you happen to have some time this afternoon, things start at 1 o'clock on Erin at the Irish Association of Manitoba. And to get you in the mood, here are the Dust Rhinos, and to all the friends I've ever had. They're playing the West End tonight.
When I think on all I've done, everything I've seen, won't waste another minute wondering what might have been. We live today, it's now or never. Life is long, but time moves on, and we won't be here forever. If I ever get to thinking the hard times we've been through, here today, and I'm proud to say that I was there with you. To all the friends I've ever had and the friends I've yet to meet. So here's to you, and here's to me.
So if you want to check them out, the Dust Rhinos are playing the West End Cultural Centre tonight. They will play covers of the English Celtic band The Pogues, thus this one, To All the Friends I've Ever Had, and check it out for St. Patrick's Day. 4 minutes to 8 o'clock now on, 14 minutes to 8 o'clock here on CBC's Information Radio. Well, next on the show, if you turn on the TV to just about any pro sports these days, you're inundated with gambling ads. You might even place a bet yourself, but some provinces are starting to see concerning trends around sports betting. Over the last decade, Ontario has seen a huge spike in calls to the gambling helpline, the calls especially coming from young men aged 15 to 24. Now, this data is coming from a recent report in the Canadian Medical Association Journal that got CBC's Hayden Waters wanting to hear from young men on this topic. He took a mic to the campus of Toronto Metropolitan University. We're going to first hear from Daniel Blanchard, who's a sports media student, who says he's having trouble breaking up with sports betting.
I want to quit, but I can't. It's the idea of being able to kind of have less worry about my financial situation just by betting on sports, which I follow every single waking minute of my life. But, I just can't seem to stop it, even though I know it's probably not the best for me. In a net total altogether over, I want to say a year and a half, I'm down at least 300, which is not as crazy as some people I know, but I know there's no need for me to be down 300 if I just kind of stopped sooner rather than later. Yeah, just the idea of being able to place $10 on my favorite team, and then they win, and then all of a sudden I get $100 out of that. I think it's just how simple it is to make money where you don't have to put in work. You just have to be like, okay, they'll score this many points, they'll get this many rebounds, and then just kind of just press 3 buttons and you have a chance to win $1,000. It's just a cycle of up and downs, but like when you do hit it, it does feel nice that you just press the button and all of a sudden you're $100 richer. I wouldn't say I have as like an addiction as some people I know where they spend $100 on bets like every 12 hours, 24 hours. But I do know the fact that if I was a bit more into betting, even though I do bet a decent bit, it would be impossible. I think I would need to call a helpline, but I think just for me, just trying to put my brain to use other than looking at props for players.
That is CBC's Hayden Waters talking to some students about sports betting and online gambling. If this is resonating with you in Manitoba, 788-3205. Well, what if you were offered a rent discount? It sounds pretty good, obviously, but you might want to be reading the fine print on your lease agreement. Right now, Manitoba's NDP government wants to expand tenant protections. So new rules were tabled just last week that could become part of legislation, in fact. It includes raising the threshold of units eligible for rent control protections and also slashing how much renovation costs some landlords could pass on to renters. But while the changes are welcomed by tenants' advocates, some say the government is missing something. No changes were introduced to address rent discounts directly. The CBC Santiago Arias Orozco is here now with more details. Good morning.
Good morning.
So to start us off, what are rent discounts?
Well, essentially, it's a drop on the amount of money a renter has to pay its landlord. Discounts are regulated under provincial rules and are agreed when you are signing a lease. They generally apply for every month of a lease unless the contract says otherwise. Discounts might only be offered for some months or be tied to a condition like paying rent on time. Now, discounts are not set in stone. They can be changed or entirely removed at the discretion of the landlord. It can happen when renewing a lease, but 3 months of notice have to be given, or if the discount is connected to a condition that's not met, like paying rent on time, the landlord can remove it during the month there was a breach. This means tenant can see their rent go up dramatically even during a lease in some cases.
So why do tenant advocates say then, Santiago, that discounts can become an issue?
Well, first, there is no cap on how big a discount can be. Sometimes they're worth hundreds of dollars that tenants are saving every month, but landlords have the power to remove or change them. And when they do so, renters have two options. Either you pay up or you move out. Sometimes the reduction in the discount can be $10 added in every monthly payment over the term of the next lease, but in other cases, the slash in the discount means renters can see a big jump a 10 or even 20% increase on the rent payments.
Which can be a lot,
Yes,
10 or
it can be.
20% in one shot,
Mm.
so to speak. How does that actually look for a tenant? You talked to someone about it.
Yes, I did. So I spoke with Brett Kranick. He lives in a 2-bedroom apartment in North Kildonan. He found the unit about 6 years ago, but only realized it was at a discounted price when he was doing the paperwork. Brett says there were no issues with the rent amount until last year, about 90 days before his lease was up. He was informed his rent would go from $1,104 to $1,200 the next year. That's about an 8.7% increase. The apartment is rent controlled, and under provincial regulations, his property manager was only allowed to raise rent by 1.7%. The rest of the increase came after the landlord took $72 from his monthly discount. And with only 30 days to renew the lease, he decided to absorb the cost. His lease is up again in the spring, and more changes to the discount are possible.
My lease renewal period, I'm going to get my letter in May or June this year, and I'm a little bit on edge to say, what's going to happen? Is it going to be 1.8% as per the mandate? Are they going to drop from the discount to make it 10, 15%? I really don't know. And it's hard for me to prepare for other things in life knowing that this potential large looming expenses is going to be lingering over my head.
So discounts are allowing landlords in some cases to pass along higher increases, bigger increases, even on a rent-controlled property.
Yes, that's the concern. But I also spoke with Yukata Dirks about another concern. Dirks is a member of Manitoba's Right to Housing Coalition, and Dirks says discounts have turned into a bit of a backdoor system.
The demand isn't there for rents that are really high. So they give tenants discounts, but as long as they've got a high legal rent, when the market conditions change, it allows them to jack that rent up. And that sort of goes against the whole principle of rent regulation, which is to stabilize the rents, and which is to prevent rent gouging. But this allows that practice.
So what do landlords have to say about all of this?
Well, I touched base with Abram Chirac from the Professional Property Managers Association. He says discounts are not a loophole. Landlords are still charging within what the government has allowed them for a unit, and the reduction is a voluntary decision property owners make to receive essentially, less money. If they alter the discount, it doesn't go above guidelines of what they could charge, but Chirac says it is also rare to see big discounts be scrapped entirely, and if it happens, he says that's important to help landlords deal with rising expenses.
So if you're removing your discount this year, you're trying to catch up on last year, what the government did to you. Never mind water rates, never mind gas or electricity rates. And never mind the fact that right now, my company, as an example, we run a maintenance staff. Our maintenance staff have to drive vehicles. My cost of the vehicles operating has gone up 20% in the last month when it comes to gasoline. I can't vary my rent. So we are under extreme pressure, the same pressure that the tenants are under for running our businesses. They just don't see that.
What is Brett, the renter that we heard from earlier in your story, what does he think of that response?
Well, he doesn't blame the property managers for his rent increase, but he says the system has to change so discount don't turn into what might be a hike that can push tenants on fixed income to just have to move out. Chirac from the Professional Property Managers Association says there are already enough rent regulations in Manitoba, and if any changes were to come, he would like to see the province allow landlords to change the rent prices in between tenancies. Now, the Right to Housing Coalition is adamant on removing new discounts altogether, but allowing renters who are already on them to continue living with them. We reached out to the Public Service Delivery Minister for comment. In a statement, Minister Mintu Sandu said his government introduced the largest expansion to rent control in decades. He brought up a number of rules that he tabled last week in the legislature. He says the government will continue looking for ways on how to make life more affordable. But among the new rules introduced last week, the province didn't address rent discounts directly.
Well, if you have a rent discount, and we'd love to know what your experience has been with it, you can always call the morning show at 788-3205. Santiago, thank you.
Thank you.
Santiago Arias Orozco, reporter with CBC Manitoba. Santiago will have more on the story, by the way, tonight on CBC News at 6. You can also read about it this morning on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. Now, since this story has been in the news all morning as well, you already have been calling us as well. So we're going to get a call on from a landlord that actually weighed in on the idea of rent discounts, who's been using rent discounts in her property for some time. So we'll have that call on for you and some feedback after 8 o'clock. Also, we'd love to hear from you, as I mentioned. So 788-3205. Also, coming up after 8 o'clock. Today, March 17th, is 1 year since Winnipeg Police Chief Gene Bowers was sworn in. He will be live on the program after 8 for a feature interview to talk about what is happening with police and the ongoing work of police transparency and rebuilding public trust. We will be talking to him about that, especially after a disgraced longtime member was sentenced to 7 years in prison, Elston Bostock, for a litany of illegal acts on the job. Bostock said in his psych report, Winnipeg police culture, quote, made it easier to do certain things, end quote. So where does the chief go from there in changing culture? He is in studio with us after 8. Now, in case you missed it, he was speaking to the police board in recent weeks, and the chief outlined at that point 10 different things that he is working on doing actively around leadership, expanding professional standards, clear performance expectations, and ways to improve transparency with the public, as well as improving the use of tech in policing and using data to measure performance. As well, we have a pilot for police body cams coming to Winnipeg in June, but it will not involve all officers wearing cameras. 40 is the number right now to start. So we're going to talk to the chief of police in Winnipeg coming up on the program live after 8 o'clock. Right now, it is 3 minutes to. Thanks for joining us here on this St. Patrick's Day morning, March 17th on CBC, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. We do have one problem in traffic. Northbound Pembina approaching Corridon, there is a stalled transit bus. We had that problem. Now that bus is cleared. So we're just learning that all lanes are open for traffic. So that's good news. Northbound Pembina approaching Corridon, all clear. If you do see any other issues, though, you can still reach Corey at 788-3093. Get the shovels. I don't think it'll melt, maybe. But we are expecting 5 centimeters of snow today in Winnipeg. Brandon, probably going to need to shovel a bit. 5 to 10 centimeters, and up in Thompson, 2 expected in a system. Minus 17 in Winnipeg. It's already snowing in Brandon, minus 14. Thompson's minus 20. Winnipeg today will be around minus 9 degrees. We do have increasing cloud, though, and it's going to be windy, so it's not going to be the greatest day of all. Winds will be blowing about 40 to 60 k from the south in our forecast. All right, let's go to Heather Wells. She is standing by right now live ahead of 8 o'clock with our headlines from Manitoba.
Good morning. Well, a Winnipeg man worries about the province's decision to back away from a timeline for opening its supervised consumption site. Chuck Neufeld says the facility is key to preventing deaths. He says while he is okay with waiting for all services and staffing to be in place, he does want to see a plan. And it all started at the Golf Dome. And now a 24-year-old pro golfer with a Winnipeg connection is making a name for himself. This past weekend, Sudarshan Yelamaraju tied for 5th place at PGA's Players Tournament in Florida. We're going to hear his Winnipeg connection story coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
And the national and international news World Report on CBC is up next. Stay with us.
On cue. These days, it can feel like cynicism is the only rational response to the world around you. But Eddie Vedder disagrees. He has some advice for you, especially if you're trying to figure out what to do when you read the news. The frontman of Pearl Jam will talk to you about hope and why giving in isn't an option.
I feel like I've always had a bit of rebellion in me.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland. And on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts. Your home, your neighborhood, your town, city, community, your country, your world, your news, your world tonight, every night, 7 days a week on CBC Radio 1, on demand on the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Martina Fitzgerald. The IDF says it has launched a wave of extensive strikes across Tehran. It claims to have killed Iran's security chief, Ali Larijani. Israel is still conducting military operations in Iran and Lebanon. And Iran is not easing up on counterattacks in the region on Israeli and U.S. targets. Crystal Gumansing has the latest from Jerusalem.
Explosions echoed through the darkness in the suburbs of Beirut, followed by a new set of evacuation orders from Israeli forces. People have been told to leave the village of Al Jal, identified as the next location in the south for Israeli military operations. More than 880 people in Lebanon have been killed since the offensive began, with over 1 million having been driven from their homes, according to Lebanese authorities.
We're at a historical juncture.
In an interview with the newswire service AFP, President Isaac Herzog defended his state's attacks on Iran's proxy.
Europe should support any effort to eradicate Hezbollah. Now, they should understand that if you want to get anywhere, sometimes you need to win war.
The war launched by Israel and the U.S. on the Iranian regime at the end of February has expanded, affecting lives right across the Middle East. A total but temporary airspace shutdown was ordered by officials in the UAE, a necessary measure as the Ministry of Defense worked to eliminate threats from drones and missiles launched from Iran. In the Iraqi capital, drones were shot down as they approached the U.S. Embassy. One is said to have evaded interception attempts, hitting the inside of the heavily protected compound in Baghdad. The Speaker of Iran's parliament says U.S. military presence does not make the region safer, and it needs to leave. In an address carried on state TV, Mohammed Bakr Kalibaf said the Middle East will change, but not according to U.S. plans. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, Jerusalem.
The European Union's foreign policy chief hopes a diplomatic solution can be reached in the Strait of Hormuz. But for now, Kaja Kallas says the EU does not want to send warships there to escort oil tankers.
Nobody is ready to put their people in harm's way in the Strait of Hormuz. But like I said, we have to find, diplomatic ways to keep this open so that we don't have a, food crisis, fertilizers crisis, energy crisis in the world.
She says European navies could get involved once hostilities in the strait have stopped. Kallas also told a reporter this morning the EU may be an ally of the United States, but it does not understand Washington's recent moves. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer says support for Ukraine cannot fall to the wayside as energy and attention turns to the conflict with Iran.
It's vital that we continue to focus on supporting Ukraine. We cannot allow the war in the Gulf to turn into a windfall for Putin.
Today, Starmer is hosting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in London. This is also deadline day for Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich to pay $4.5 billion to victims of the Ukraine war. The money is supposed to come from his sale of the Chelsea FC soccer team. If he does not pay up, the British government will take him to court. Afghanistan is accusing Pakistan of targeting civilians. It says an airstrike on a drug rehab center in Kabul has killed more than 400 people. But as Pakistan ramps up its attacks, it says it's only targeting military facilities. Our South Asia correspondent Salima Shivji has more.
Rescue workers rushed to gather the wounded in the ash and mangled debris of what was once a drug rehab hospital in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul, now in ruins. A bomb dropped just after prayers at 9 last night, Iqbal says, from his hospital bed, his head wrapped in a bandage. The wall and the ceiling fell on top of us, he says. Somehow I pulled myself out of there. The injured were being brought to us from all directions, says Kabul paramedic Syed Mirab Shah. Afghan officials are accusing Pakistan of targeting the hospital. Islamabad denies that. It's a dramatic escalation in the conflict that's been raging for more than 2 weeks after Pakistan declared open war on its neighbor. Civilian deaths and clashes on the shared border had already been climbing steadily before this strike, says Farzana Sheikh with Chatham House's Asia Pacific program.
There has been a very sharp spike in militant violence in Pakistan since the Afghan Taliban came to power. And Pakistan has blamed this violence on the Afghan Taliban.
International calls for a ceasefire have so far been ignored by both sides, but Chinese officials are again trying today, calling for restraint. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Mumbai.
Parts of British Columbia are being hammered by an atmospheric river. That doesn't typically happen at this time of year, but the system is producing very heavy rainfall on the coast and significant snowfall in the mountains. As Georgie Smythe reports, the downpour comes with increased risk of flooding, avalanches, and landslides.
It's wet. Heavy rainfall and snow delivered by a strong Pacific low pressure system is hitting Vancouver Island, the Central Coast and Vancouver's Coast Mountains.
So it's been a very wet pattern.
Brian Proctor is with Environment Canada. He says temperatures are also on the rise.
And they've risen steadily through the day as the warm air associated with this atmospheric river really has sort of flooded across the south coast.
That means rain at higher elevations too.
We're warming up those layers up there at the higher elevations, and it's really problematic moving forward.
It's why Avalanche Canada is also forecasting increasing avalanche activity in the next few days. Colin Garrity is one of their forecasters. He says the storm is hitting an already dangerously unstable snowpack.
As that gets saturated with rainwater, what we expect is a wet, loose avalanche problem.
All that rain and snowmelt is flowing down saturated slopes into rivers and streams. A mudslide near Prince Rupert derailed several cars of a train on Monday. No one was hurt. People are being reminded to stay away from unstable or flooded areas until levels subside. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
British Columbia isn't the only place being walloped by powerful weather. Thousands of flights are cancelled or delayed in the United States as a heavy storm batters the East Coast. Stephanie Schlepp has been stranded at Chicago's O'Hare Airport since yesterday. She says it's not clear if the issue is weather or the partial U.S. government shutdown straining airport security staff.
Well, I actually came from Des Moines, Iowa first, and we had weather-related issues, but someone else had said there were like 500 TSA agents that walked out. So, yeah, it's just a nightmare, the whole thing is.
Along the eastern seaboard, many schools are closed because of high winds and possible tornadoes. The U.S. National Weather Service says the fast-moving storm is expected to move out of the region later today. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has fined another Loblaw store $10,000 for promoting imported food as Canadian. Fortino's in Toronto was selling a French cheese spread, but the tag on the shelf displayed a maple leaf. The CFIA says that's misleading to shoppers still taking part in the Buy Canadian movement. CBC News has learned the agency is also investigating labeling and advertising practices at Sobeys head office. The mayor of Waterloo, Ontario, is demanding answers from police after a sniper was deployed to a St. Patrick's Day street party. As Ashta Shetty reports, police say the tactical officer was part of safety operations.
Someone randomly was looking up at the sky and they were like, yo, that's a sniper.
Students taking part in an unsanctioned street party for St. Patrick's Day over the weekend were surprised to see an officer on the top floor balcony of a building with his face covered, dressed in all black, standing next to a large weapon. Annalise Meerton, an Australian international exchange student at the University of Waterloo, says the experience was startling.
There's no words for it in that moment of how shocked I was. And then all my friends started going, oh, I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. And then it was more so, let's go. It was terrifying.
Melissa Quarry, a spokesperson for the Waterloo Regional Police Service, says the sniper is one of their tactical officers and was there as part of their safety plan for large gatherings.
Protocol for all major events. Unfortunately, with the magnitude of unfortunate mass casualty events that have occurred throughout North America and around the world, that really shapes our emergency response strategies for all types of large gatherings.
Waterloo Mayor Dorothy McCabe says she was, quote, shocked to hear there was a sniper deployed to manage the street party. She says she's looking for more information from Chief Mark Crowell to understand more about their protocols. Ashta Shetty, CBC News, Waterloo.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. For news anytime, go to cbcnews.ca. I'm Martina Fitzgerald. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone. It is St. Patrick's Day. It is Tuesday morning, and it's nice that you're joining us here on CBC on the March 17th. It is still really cold out there in Winnipeg, boy. Thanks for being here. You're on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. Well, this half hour on the program, Winnipeg Police Chief Gene Bowers has been in his new job for exactly 1 year. today. He was sworn in a year ago on this date. He's in studio to talk about the work of police transparency, rebuilding public trust. Bowers recently laid out 10 key areas with the police board that he is working on, and some changes that have already been put in place. So we're going to hear more about that. Also, this half hour on the show, we just had a story from CBC's Santiago Arias Orozco talking about the idea of rent discounts and how some, in fact, rental advocacy groups are worried about them because they say they provide a loophole for larger jumps in rent down the road. We got a call from a landlord, so we're going to play that in a moment in response to our CBC story. Right now, with other stories and headlines, here is Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, we now know the name of one of the victims of last Thursday's double homicide on Boyd Avenue. Winnipeg police say a 16-year-old boy from Saging and a 32-year-old man, Jason Robert Baker, both died in hospital. Baker lived in Winnipeg but was a member of Hollow Water First Nation. So far, no arrests have been made. And a Winnipeg man worries about the province's decision to back away from a timeline for opening its supervised consumption site. Chuck Neufeld says that facility is key to preventing other deaths. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Let's get to what's going on in the forecast. Abby is dressed in bright orange today to offset the fact that it's going to be cloudy and snowy all day.
Yes, Marcy, we're bracing for a snowy and blustery Tuesday as this winter system pushes through the south, and we'll be seeing really extreme colds in the northern part of the province. We're talking about wind chills and the values close to minus 49 as you travel towards Churchill this morning. But for Winnipeg and nearby areas, we're expecting more clouds to roll in with snow and local blowing snow beginning sometime this morning. We see our highs around minus 9. Current temperatures is going to be holding steady around minus 17 for most of the morning. Gusty south winds will make it feel like minus 31 with the wind chill factored in. So watch out for a risk of frostbite this morning. Up north, Thompson Churchill, dangerously cold there. We're seeing wind chill values minus 34s and minus 48 respectively. This snow is definitely going to be coming around. We're expecting some areas will get 2 centimeters, and for the Westman region, we're anticipating about 10 centimeters of snow, and this will be blowing around. So your commute from mid-morning all the way to rush hour later in the day
it's
going to be a thing.
Yeah. I don't know why I said you're wearing orange. If people are watching on YouTube, you're clearly wearing your highlighter yellow today.
It's kind of yellow.
Yeah. Oh, it's totally yellow. I don't know why I just
maybe
misspoke.
I'll call it neon.
Yeah, it's very neon. I'm into it. I like it. It's cheering me up. Corey Funk, the drive's been good, except we did have an early problem that's cleared now in Corydon, right?
Yeah, there was an articulated bus, which a phoner called to say it's called articulated buses.
Not a bendy bus? That was
not a bendy accordion bus. Articulated is a technical term.
Proper term.
Blocking northbound Pembina there, but that is cleared. Other than that, though, just if you're in the western part of the province right now, you might see some poor visibility as that system makes its way eastward. If you do see something else going on, you can give me a call, 204-788-3093.
Well, let's build on a story that we had just before 8 and get to that listener line. It's about rent discounts. It sounds like a win, but as I mentioned, some tenant advocates say they are a backdoor for hefty increases down the road. They make those possible. We heard Santiago's special report, our CBC reporter, and then we got this call from a landlord.
Hi there, Shirley DeLorme Russell. I am a landlord of one home, and I set it at a price that folks could afford. And I leave it there, and every year there's a rent increase. I increase the discount by that much. So when I started, the discount was a whopping $25, just artificial. And then, the next year it grew to 27, then the next year it grew to, 102. And the rules on my end for keeping the rent discount are simple. Not allowed to vape in the house, no smoking in the house, no drugs in the house. Not allowed to grow marijuana in the house. Not that I care about marijuana, but 2 things in a house makes it a grow up. If the police are called all the time, if they're like super bad to their neighbors, or if they're not managing the house, then the discount goes away. So my tenants lost their discount. I won't tell you why. So from the $1,200 that it has been since 2015, it's now $1,475, which ridiculously is normal rent. But yeah, that's my story. Thanks.
If you have a story about rent discounts, we would love to hear how it's going for you with them, if you're a landlord or if you're a tenant. And you can read the story that is published on our website about it today. Please do before you weigh in at cbc.ca/Manitoba, our listener line, 204-788-3205. Well, as I mentioned, today is exactly 1 year since Gene Bowers was sworn in as Winnipeg's new police chief. And what a year he's had to deal with. Bowers is tasked with rebuilding public trust after disgraced former police officer Elston Bostock was sentenced to 7 years in prison for a laundry list of crimes while he was an officer. Crimes like selling drugs, fixing tickets, even sharing a photo of a topless dead woman. Bostock said in his psych report, Winnipeg police culture, quote, made it easier to do certain things. The judge who sentenced him in January called it a, quote, dark day for public confidence in the administration of justice, end quote. 3 other officers are also facing charges. One has pleaded guilty to some charges already. So where does the chief go from here? Gene Bowers recently laid out 10 areas where changes are already being made, and he's in studio to talk about some of those and to react a little bit to where he does go from here. Thank you for being here in person.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning. So what do you make of Bostock's statement? I know you can't speak to the case directly, but what do you make when he said Winnipeg police culture, quote, made it easier to do certain things?
Yeah, so I guess, what some of the things that we're looking at is the supervision and oversight of our members. And I really looked at what we were doing as far as the supervisory team. And I did see some things that needed improving. So some of the things that, we did look at were developing accountable leaders. And that's very important. We have to give the tools to our leaders and our supervisors that they can hold people accountable when they are seeing things that need to be addressed, and just not let things slide, because when you do let things go, they tend to get worse. So I wanted to give the tools to our supervisors. So we developed a course, a lead course, leadership based. So it's leadership, empathy, accountability, and dedication. And we wanted to give those tools to those supervisors to have those difficult conversations when they see things that, that should be addressed, and we don't let them go. So
when you just interject, when you said that you were seeing some things that were concerning, and then you started by saying, so now we're giving tools to our leaders, would those have been moments where you feel like, if you look back, things could have been caught in the service if leadership had been more, been doing their jobs?
In a number of areas, especially where performance was lacking. So when you see those indicators, that's the time for our supervisors to jump in and just to see what's going on with the person. It could be something personal, it could be something at work, but to step in at that time and have those conversations.
What stops leaders from doing that, or what would have in the service? Is it a larger cultural piece, or in your view, what would have been stopping that?
I just think it's, initially when our members become sergeants, we give them some training. I think that what I was seeing was the training. We needed to extend that training to make sure some of these processes get very complicated as far as holding people accountable within our own rules and regs, or if they become criminal. So we wanted to give them a better understanding of what the path is and where they can go for help should they have problems that they needed to be resolved.
Obviously, one of the most surprising things about the Bostock case is how many others were aware of some of what was going on and didn't do anything about it. Although in the end, it was officers that did something about it, correct. I will acknowledge. How do you break the blue wall? Is it part of what you're talking about? Like, how much does that have to extend beyond leadership?
Well, I think leadership is the main thing. And I do think when people feel maybe that they don't have the backing of the service, that they may be reluctant to move ahead. So I just wanted to reiterate to my senior leadership that we support our members that are going to hold people accountable. When these things happen, criminal offenses, or we're talking about the drugs and things like that, those are things that are not we don't accept within our service. And those are very serious matters that need to be investigated, and then people need to be held accountable. And I reiterated that to my senior leadership and asked them to go to the front lines to their members to make sure that, they are aware that we will support them should they see inappropriate behavior.
As I mentioned, you cannot speak to specifics of the Bostock case, but I know that leadership met with all members to understand as well how this has been affecting them. What did you hear? What can you share that you heard from members?
Yeah, definitely. This is a very difficult job that police officers do. I've done this, been in this line of work for 37 years. It gets trying, and the members that are dedicated, the vast majority took this to heart. They don't want to see criminal behavior within our organization, and they were as shocked about it as the rest of the community is, and they want this out of our service, and because they work every day hard to keep our citizens safe, and this just goes against the grain of what they're doing.
You mentioned your 37-year career as a Winnipeg police officer,
Correct.
in our city. Before you became chief, were you ever in the position where you had to report bad conduct of a fellow officer?
Well, I was in charge of the professional standards unit as the deputy chief, and I dealt with these incidents, and I made sure that when people were coming forward about misconduct, whether it be the public or within our own organization, that I ensured that those would be followed up.
This is a very specific question, but I'm going to ask it because you said that you saw a need for change, and we're using the word culture, looking at the service and a need for moving forward in a different way. Would there ever have been a moment in your decades of service where you had to turn a blind eye if someone weren't doing something by the book? Like, was that part of a regular cultural thing that you would have?
No, this is not something that's criminality. This goes against, again, the grain of a police officer.
Yeah.
This isn't something that people would watch and just sort of sit by. If someone's speaking with people from the criminal element, and that if I was aware of it, definitely I don't think people would do that because they know that I'm a police officer at heart, and that just goes against my values and judgment.
And I didn't mean that to be too provocative of a question. I'm asking it because I want to turn to some of what you talked to the police board about. You talked to the police board about improving transparency. You're looking at the Police Services Act needing to change. In 2025, you also said the Code of Conduct for officers. You want to look into making discipline more public. So you're looking at really big changes to change the fabric of things here.
Yes.
What have you done so far to make some of these things happen?
So, as you know, I sent a letter to the minister asking for a code of conduct for all police services in Manitoba. Consistency is really important when you're talking about accountability and holding people to account. So I really wanted to ensure that we're all on the same level playing field as far as policing in Manitoba. And then the other thing is a lot of times people will make complaints to the police, and we will deal with it within our own rules and regs. Unfortunately, we can't discuss what steps we took, corrective steps, because of the bylaw that we currently are under. So I would like the new PSA, the Police Services Act, to have the ability for us to let complainants know of the action that was taken, if there was any action taken regarding discipline.
Okay, so that will be an improvement in transparency then with the public.
Yes.
Yeah. Police body cameras, you also spoke about this. I know there's 40 officers in a pilot project going to be wearing them in June.
Correct.
Some people, actually, a listener wrote to me this morning and said, ask the chief, why not all of the officers?
Well, the body-worn cameras, there's a lot that goes on in the background. So we have DEMS right now, so Digital Evidence Management Program. And the cameras actually plug into that program, and we're able to store the footage. We're able to send it to the Crown utilizing the DEMS program. Now, how that all progresses and through the system is something that we're going to be exploring, because that's a big task when you're dealing with large amounts of information. So we don't want to overburden our civilian staff and people who will be redacting these videos or putting them into evidence. So we want to ensure that we have the structure in order to handle all this digital evidence. So hence, it's just sort of taking a little bite at a time to make sure that we can handle what we're proposing to do to go full scale with our body-worn camera program.
8:25, Winnipeg Police Chief Gene Bowers being gracious with his time today in a feature interview on CBC after presenting to the Police Board March 6th with different recommendations for moving forward. I wonder, when you think about a year ahead, we mentioned today's a year since you were sworn in. When we sit down a year from now, I'm going to ask you two questions, but how do you hope Winnipeggers describe the police service, and how do you hope members describe working in the city? I don't know which one you want to answer first.
Well, I'd like to talk about the members. Again, they're very dedicated, the vast majority of our members, and I see amazing things and I hear about amazing things they do. And I guess a year ahead, I'd really like to hear those stories more, or for those stories to be in the public more, and that the public's aware of all the good work that our members do. So that's something I'd like for our members, and our members to feel, that they're going out there and they're being recognized for that great work they're doing. So as far as transparency, again, I've mentioned some of these things that I would like for. In order to ensure transparency to the public. I want the public to feel that the police service is out there to help them, and that we are being transparent when things occur, and that they can trust us. Without public trust, really, we can't function as a police service, and that's something that I've messaged to our membership as well. We need to be professional. We need to operate with integrity, and with that, we will get the public trust. And I want Winnipeggers to feel safe in their communities, and part of that is trusting the police, so that we're working together to ensure that everybody in our community is safe.
I mentioned Winnipeggers writing in. Some people are asking whether or not there could be an incentive for officers who build strong community relationship. Could you expand community engagement programs, or have regular public briefings, or outside of the 10 things you talked to the police board about? How open are you to other ways of engaging directly with the public in Winnipeg?
It's extremely important. I've been extremely busy in that front. I've been out in the community as much as I can, and listening to the community and what they're, what they want from the police and how they feel about the police. I'm open to always engaging with the community. I think it's very important, and it's very important for our members too to engage with the public. Often they're going to calls and, they're seeing the people at their worst. But when we do community work, they get to see, the other side of the community, the real good side of the community. And that's important for our members to see, just not, going to a lot of those, critical calls. That they need to see the public in those moments where, we can just have a conversation and maybe have a coffee.
Before you go this morning, we have a couple of news of the day questions, because I understand there's some data in that says we've had 9 homicides to this point in Winnipeg this year. How does that compare to last year?
I believe at this time we're around 6 homicides. As you know, last year we were half of the year prior. And again, homicides are often hard to predict. But, we are doing work, especially with our MIVU unit, taking, the worst of the worst offenders off of the streets, the most violence. And I think that has some effect, obviously, on our homicide rates. The more we are holding people to account within the justice system, the less opportunity they have to commit crimes.
Should we be concerned that we're above the level of last year, or how concerning is that to you? Is there perspective on that number?
Well, again, it ebbs and it flows. It's hard to predict. I'm not. It's not exceedingly way over that number. And as I said, we were half the number as the year before.
Yep.
So again, any homicide is super tragic, and is, if we could avoid them, any homicide, that would be great. But again, I'm not overly concerned right now.
And for those that have been, involved guns, you and I were kind of having a conversation off mic here. Is it a fact that most of the guns period in Winnipeg are coming from the States?
So yeah, 100%. Most of our guns are coming in through the border from the United States. I believe 4 homicides. I just did a quick check. 4 homicides involve firearms so far this year. And we do see a lot of firearms over the years, and the majority of those firearms, I can say, are from the United States.
Yeah, of course I have 10 follow-ups, but that'll have to be another interview about
Sure.
guns. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Really
Thank you for
appreciate it.
having me.
That is Winnipeg's Police Chief Gene Bowers with us this morning, live on CBC. We're a little late getting to the news, but that's next on 89.3.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it is -16. You'll have to tie down your leprechauns because it is going to be so windy today. Starting at south 20, but increasing 40, gusting to 60 this morning. Combine that with some snow, and we have some blowing snow in today's forecast, and about 5 centimeters on the way. Today's high, -9. A Manitoba tenant worries his rent discount could turn into a hefty bill increase this summer. Brett Krynick lives in a 2-bedroom apartment in North Kildonan. That unit is rent-controlled. His landlord can only increase his monthly rent fee by 1.8% this year without an exemption. But Krynick says his rent jumped more than expected last year after his landlord reduced his monthly discount by $72.
Are they going to draw from the discount to make it 10, 15%? I really don't know. And it's hard for me to prepare for other things in life knowing that this potential large looming expenses is going to be lingering over my head.
Manitoba landlords can offer discounts, and it's up to them if they want to change them. Some tenant advocates want to see that practice end, saying it can lead to unexpected rent increases over time. We now know the name of one of the victims of last Thursday's double homicide on Boyd Avenue. Winnipeg police say a 16-year-old boy from Saguenay and a 32-year-old man, Jason Robert Baker, both died in hospital after the shootings. Baker lived in Winnipeg but was a member of Hollow Water First Nation. No arrests have been made. A Winnipeg man worries about the province's decision to back away from a timeline for opening its supervised consumption site. Chuck Neufeld lost his son, Sean, to an overdose in 2021. He says the facility is key to preventing other deaths. Earlier this month, Premier Rob Canoe said a temporary supervised consumption site could open within a week or two. Now he says it could be weeks or months. Neufeld says while he's okay with waiting for all the services and staffing to be in place, he still wants to see a plan.
I think they should say, hey, okay, we'll have this open in 3 months. So maybe in 2 months' time, if they'll go, oh, you know what, we need another month. And that may happen too, but at least they have a target to shoot towards.
Canoe says rather than opening the site quickly, he wants to make sure everything is done right. Well, a sure sign spring is the annual request from CAA Manitoba for your worst roads in this province. The campaign's in its 15th year now. Ewald Friesen is CAA Manitoba's Manager of Government and Community Relations. He says Manitobans have a long list of criteria for roads to qualify.
Potholes, they're the ones that come up routinely, but it could also include something like sunken sewer grates, the cracked road surfaces, crumbling curbs, poorly timed lights, anything that affects your ability to commute smoothly.
Friesen says the campaign has been effective. In 2024, after 18th Street in Brandon was named the worst road, the province committed money to fixing it. You can register your worst road online at the CAA Manitoba website. A Winnipegger working to make hockey more accessible welcomes a new Inclusion in Sport bill. The NDP says its Promoting Inclusion in Amateur Sport Act will help identify barriers to play in some communities. Alan Chan is director with the non-profit Our Game Hockey. That group has worked with the Winnipeg Jets and Winnipeg School Division to help get young newcomers and underrepresented groups on the ice.
Coming from a background of being an inner city kid and not really ever having these opportunities, and now seeing the government setting this in motion just gives me hope. And when I was growing up, I just never thought this was something that was on the radar within the government.
Chan hopes the province connects with sports organizations already collecting some of the demographic data the sports minister wants to track. Well, a pro golfer who took up the sport here in Winnipeg has fans talking on the PGA Tour. This past weekend, Sudarshan Yalamaraju tied for 5th at the prestigious Players Tournament in Florida. The 24-year-old was born in India and moved with his family to Winnipeg as a preschooler. It's where he started hitting balls with his dad at the Golf Dome. When he was 11, he moved to the Toronto area. Derek Ingram is the head coach of Golf Canada's men's national team. He's worked with Yalamaraju and was at the PGA's Players.
He has a unique path. He didn't go to play college golf like a lot of players do. He turned pro at 19 or 18 and got onto our national team at 20. And to be, on the PGA Tour at 24 is incredible.
Yalamaraj's finish on Sunday was the best by a PGA Tour rookie in almost 15 years. You can find the latest news updated throughout your day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Corey, quick traffic.
Very quiet commute overall. Might be poor visibility on the highways in western Manitoba around Russell and Roblin.
Abby, the snow.
Yeah, snow on its way to the southern parts of the province. Brace for that. While up north, it's still pretty cold.
Abby Adiemi, Corey Funk, Darren Mirage, Leif Larson, Nellie Gonzalez, as well as Josh Crabb, Heather Wells, and Megan Ketcherson, Santiago Arias Orozco, Jim Agapito, and Sierra Sanders, all folks that had a hand in today's show, and thank you. And thank you for listening. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Take care, be well, Manitoba. We will be back with another edition of Information Radio tomorrow, right here on CBC. 89.3 FM, The Current, coming up next.